Chapter 1890. Chu Li shook his head. Nothing good would happen when a celestial appeared. The two celestial were elders with snow-white eyebrows. They stood in front of Chu Li and looked at him with bright eyes. They shook their heads. Chu Li knew something was wrong when he saw their expressions. "Seniors, what brings you here today?" Chu Li fist saluted and said, "This is the martial arts field of Crouching Bull Mountain. Are you in the wrong place?" "I'm Niu Qianjin, a disciple of Crouching Bull Mountain 200 years ago," a burly elder scoffed. The other skinny elder said, "I'm Yang Ziqing, also a disciple of Crouching Bull Mountain." Chu Li nodded. "Seniors, I'm Zhuge Tian, the new Hill Master of Crouching Bull Mountain." "You're the Hill Master?" Niu Qianjin scoffed. "I'm not the Hill Master yet, am I?" Chu Li raised his left hand and extended his index finger. "The previous Hill Master passed away, and passed the position to me. This is the Hill Master's ring. I'm sure both of you know the rules of Crouching Bull Mountain?" "Of course, I understand the rules." Niu Qianjin nodded. "The rule of Crouching Bull Mountain is that anyone who wishes to ascend to the position of Hill Master must accept all challenges from the disciples of Crouching Bull Mountain. Only by winning all the challenges can one ascend to the position. Those who fail to win all the challenges are not qualified to succeed as Hill Master." Chu Li said, "Seems like both of you want to learn from each other." "That's right." Niu Qianjin scoffed. Chu Li extended his hand. "Please." He did not want to waste any more time. Since they wanted to stop him from succeeding, he would just send them to heaven. There was no point in talking to these celestial beings. Niu Qianjin's body suddenly lit up. He broke the seal and used his secret skill. He knew that Zhuge Tian was a genius. He did not want to fail miserably, so he gave it his all. Chu Li's sword flashed and pierced Niu Qianjin's heart. He pulled out his sword and retreated. He looked at Yang Ziqing. Niu Qianjin held his chest and staggered. He smiled bitterly. "You live up to your reputation." Yang Ziqing retreated and wanted to avoid Chu Li's sword. Chu Li stepped in front of him. The sword flashed and pierced through his heart. Yang Ziqing looked down at his chest and shook his head helplessly, and looked at Niu Qianjin. Their bodies suddenly shone brightly, and they transformed into two beams of light that shot into the sky. The gate of heaven slowly appeared in the clouds. When the two beams of light rushed to the gate of heaven, a gap had already been opened. The two of them didn't look back as they directly entered and disappeared. Chu Li sheathed his sword and glanced at the crowd below the stage. Everyone stared at the sky with their mouths agape. They watched as the divine gate slowly disappeared into the clouds, then turned to look at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled calmly. "Is there any other disciple who wants to give it a try?" "Young lord, aren't you being too ruthless?" Hu Huarong scoffed. "After all, he's a senior of our sect. They're celestials." Chu Li said coldly, "I want to issue the first Hill Master's order. All disciples of Crouching Bull Mountain are not allowed to get close to celestials." "Young Master." Hu Huarong frowned. Chu Li calmly said, "Hill Master." "This." Hu Huarong hesitated. Chu Li said, "Does Elder Hu also want to challenge me to a duel?" Hu Huarong met Chu Li's calm gaze, and his expression changed slightly. Jin Yi sighed to himself. He knew that no one could stop Chu Li from killing celestials. Not only did these two celestials not stop him from becoming the Hill Master, but they even helped him. It was really frustrating. He took a deep breath and said slowly, "Junior brother Hu, the young lord's martial arts is unparalleled. He's indeed worthy of being the Hill Master." "Senior brother Jin," Hu Huarong quickly said. Jin Yi said, "Greetings, Hill Master." He knew that with Zhuge Tian's ruthlessness, if they continued to go against him, Zhuge Tian could really use this as an excuse to duel and take the opportunity to kill or cripple them. Now that things had come to this, they could only go with the flow. Hu Huarong opened his mouth but could not say anything. Chu Li smiled. "Elder Xia, Elder Murong, I'll leave the enthronement ceremony to you two. Yes. Xia Lian and Murong Chun closed fist saluted. Chu Li nodded. It's decided then. Let's start talking about the Crouching Bull insight. The crowd had yet to react, but when they heard the words Crouching Bull insight, they could not help but feel refreshed. Chu Li continued to talk about the second picture of the Crouching Bull insight. The crowd's attention was quickly attracted. They stared at him without blinking and pricked up their ears, afraid to miss a word. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the Divine Light Basilica. There was no one else in the basilica. Sun Mingyue was reading the dossier behind the table. Li Meng stood beside her, watching how Master would handle the dossier. Sun Mingyue looked up. She was dressed in a snow-white robe and her face was covered with a white veil, revealing only a pair of bright eyes. She looked at him with a faint smile. Chu Li smiled. Li Meng closed fist saluted. Masters Junior. Chu Li nodded. I'm here for Li Meng. Sun Mingyue glanced at Li Meng. Li Meng looked at Chu Li in shock. Masters Junior is looking for me? Chu Li said, the blood dragon fruit is ripe. You can try it. Hurry up and thank Masters Junior Chu. Sun Mingyue said. Li Meng quickly thanked him, but her big eyes flashed with confusion. She did not understand. Chu Li did not say much. I'll bring her back first. It's good to let her stay for a few more days, Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Li Meng said, Master, I'm going to Masters Junior. What about the matter here? Someone will handle it. Sun Mingyue waved her hand. Go. Yes. Li Meng looked reluctant. Sun Mingyue glanced at her. Chu Li smiled and grabbed Li Meng's wrist. He disappeared in a flash, and appeared on his own island in the next moment. As soon as he let go of Li Meng's wrist, Li Meng rushed to Xueling happily. Sister Xueling. Xueling, who was welcoming them, smiled and hugged Li Meng. Chu Li said, Has Shiji arrived? Yes, he just arrived, Xueling said. As soon as she finished speaking, Pang Shiji's figure appeared. He strode forward and closed fist saluted. Master! Chu Li waved his hand. Pang Shiji's aura was vigorous and steady. He had improved a lot. After cultivating his swordsmanship, not only did he not become sharp, but he became more steady. He had mastered the swordsmanship and his comprehension was not too bad. Chu Li was secretly glad. Xueling said, Madam and Second Lady are here too. Let's go and have a look, Chu Li said. Xueling turned around and took out a big wooden box that was about half the height of a person. Li Meng quickly went forward to help. Pang Shiji wanted to go forward too, but he almost touched Li Meng's hand. Li Meng rolled her eyes at him. Pang Shiji awkwardly took a step back and made way. Chu Li shook his head. It seemed that the two of them did not get along. There would be trouble in the future. They arrived in front of a dragon blood tree. Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi were already in front of the dragon blood tree. They were looking at the blood-red fruits hanging on the branches. Each fruit was the size of an apple and was as red as blood. There were faint flashes of scales on them. It did not look like they were going to be eaten. Instead, they would feel nauseous and want to stay away. Chu Li pointed at the tree. Shiji, Li Meng, pick one each and eat. We're eating this? Li Meng suddenly looked troubled. Pang Shiji went forward without hesitation. He picked a fruit and took a bite. His mouth was dry and unpalatable. His expression changed, but he insisted on eating. He felt bitter. Seeing him like this, Li Meng picked one as well. After biting it, her face immediately scrunched up. Chu Li said, Eat it quickly. Don't delay. Masters Junior, what is this? Li Meng asked softly. Chu Li scoffed. Little? Gather? Why? Chapter 1891. Okay. Li Meng answered helplessly. Her face scrunched up and she swallowed with difficulty. She looked at the fruit with scales on it and felt nauseous. However, the bitterness of the fruit stopped her from vomiting. She could not vomit even if she wanted to. Chu Li said, Finish it in 10 breaths. Li Meng stared at him. Chu Li stared back. Li Meng bit down helplessly. She closed her eyes and chewed hard. She swallowed hard and then bit hard again. After a while, her mouth was numb and it was not that painful to eat. Pang Shiji had finished eating and looked at Li Meng. Li Meng opened her eyes and met his half-smile. She was annoyed and glared back at him. She lowered her head and continued eating. Chu Li scoffed, "It's almost 10 breaths." Li Meng quickly gobbled it up. Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi shook their heads and laughed. They could not bear it but did not expose Chu Li. They just looked at Li Meng chewing pitifully. Her mouth was small, far smaller than Pang Shiji's. Pang Shiji's mouth was equivalent to 3 of hers. Seeing Li Meng being forced into such a miserable state, he pitied her. He looked at Chu Li but saw Chu Li's serious expression. He lost his courage, and could only sigh for Li Meng. Chu Li saw that Li Meng had finally finished eating. She even chewed up a piece of the core and swallowed it. He smiled. "This is a miracle fruit. The longer you eat it, the more the medicinal effect will disappear. Eat this." As he spoke, he took out 2 pills and tossed them to the 2 of them, 1 for each of them. These pills were as white as jade but had no smell. They were sealed with beeswax. Li Meng looked at them and then looked up at Chu Li. Chu Li said, "Eat it first." Li Meng said helplessly, "Masters Junior, what is it? You should at least tell me." "You don't need to know," Chu Li said. Li Meng looked unhappy. Chu Li said, "You don't want to eat it?" "All right," Li Meng sighed helplessly. She could not win against him. It was better to be obedient. Pang Shiji crushed the beeswax and swallowed it. His face turned red. Li Meng stared at him. Compared to this guy, she was the one who was not obedient and he was the obedient child. What an annoying guy. She also crushed the wax and swallowed the pill. As soon as it entered his mouth, it transformed into a stream of clear qi that drilled into his internal organs and began to flow throughout his body. An ice-cold aura rose from his stomach and collided with the clear aura. Immediately, the 2 forces began to fight, neither giving way to the other. His body became their battlefield, and for a moment, the pain was unbearable. Pang Shiji's face was red from the pain. In just a moment, his forehead was already covered in a layer of sweat. Li Meng's small face was pale. She was in so much pain that she wanted to die. "Are you all right?" Xiao Qi asked softly. Chu Li shook his head. "Use your sword to attack them." Xiao Qi looked at him in surprise. Xiao Shi said, "Judging from their looks, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't matter if it's too late, but Li Meng is sect leader Sun's precious disciple. If something really happens to her, how are you going to explain it to him?" Chu Li smiled. "It's all right." Xiao Shi cast a sidelong glance at him. "Looks like your relationship with sect leader Sun is not ordinary." Chu Li looked at her helplessly. Xiao Shi pursed her lips and chuckled. "I'm not trying to stir up trouble." "Second elder sister, you are stirring up trouble." Xiao Qi laughed. Xiao Shi laughed. "Chu Li is not being honest." "Second elder sister." Xiao Qi scoffed. Xiao Shi quickly waved her hand. All right, I won't stir up trouble. Quickly follow your husband's orders." Xiao Qi rolled her eyes at her. The regal sword above her head was already activated. Suddenly, streaks of sword energy shot towards the 2 of them. Bang! Pang Shiji was sent flying, with Li Meng beside him. Chu Li shook his head and said, "Don't be merciful. I'm still here. I'm only left with 1 breath. I won't die." Xiao Shi laughed. "You're really heartless as a master. They don't advance bravely. They need to be forced to move forward," Chu Li said. Li Meng did not know martial arts since she was young. She was just a daughter of an ordinary family. Later on, she suddenly became Sun Mingyue's disciple. She did not understand how rare it was and how hard she should work. Everything was shouldered by Sun Mingyue. Under Sun Mingyue's protection, although Li Meng worked hard, she did not feel the pressure of treading on thin ice. Pang Shiji, on the other hand, had lived a life of luxury since he was young. His grandfather was an elder of the Great One Palace. He had a respected status, and no one dared to laugh at his low martial arts. Later on, he had a fortuitous encounter and ate the strange fruit. Since then, he became a genius. Even though he wanted to be the best in the world, he did not feel the urgency to do so. He felt that if he cultivated step by step, he would become the best sooner or later. They lacked a sense of urgency, so they did not work hard enough when they cultivated. If they wanted to improve their strength quickly, they could only passively force them to improve. Bang! Bang! Pang Shiji and Li Meng were hit by the sword again in the air. They spat out blood. Chu Li said in a low voice, "If you can't withstand this, you're useless. You'll only be a burden if I keep you around." Pang Shiji and Li Meng widened their eyes and took a deep breath to stabilize their inner energy. They wanted to avoid the invisible sword energy. Bang bang! Just as they were about to fall, they flew up again and spat out blood in the air. Xiao Qi looked calm. She had used 20% of her regal sword aura. Their cultivation level was not strong enough, so they needed to be forced to improve. Otherwise, if they were bullied outside, they could not let their elders stand up for them. Bang 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 bang! Amidst the continuous sounds, the two flew back and forth in the air. They tried their best to avoid the invisible sword energy, but they could feel it coming. However, it was too fast for them to avoid, so they could only fight it head-on. Li Meng used the Divine Light Fist, while Pang Shiji used the Cloud-slashing God's Palm. The result of their head-on fight was that they were constantly sent flying. They were injured again and again. They felt as if their internal organs were about to be overturned. The pain was unbearable. Chu Li said faintly, "With your current martial arts level, you won't dare to go out. You'll be embarrassed if you do. Li Meng, don't think that you'll be fine if you hide in Great Light Peak. Those elders of the Divine Light Fist don't even look at people with weak martial art. You're the disciple of the bishop, so they'll look down on you even more if you're not good enough." Li Meng pursed her red lips. Her eyes were bright. Chu Li had hit her sore spot. Those elders did not even look her in the eye, and their tone was filled with disdain. It was said that when her master was younger than her, she was already a saint. These old people did not dare to be presumptuous. Even if they were to do something, they would do it behind her back. They would not dare to do it in front of her. However, she was looked down upon by them. Since she was not good enough, her master could not say anything. She cultivated with all her might. Unfortunately, martial arts was not something that could be achieved overnight. It was impossible to improve in a short period of time. Chu Li continued, "Pang Shiji, as my disciple, I'm afraid you won't dare to go out. My enemies are everywhere. Any one of them can kill you hundreds of times. Do you want to hide by my side for the rest of your life?" Pang Shiji's handsome face turned red. He said firmly, "I won't embarrass you, master." Chu Li said, "I'm just saying. You're not working hard enough when it comes to cultivation." "Yes." Pang Shiji gritted his teeth. Chapter 1892. Pang Shiji and Li Meng kept vomiting blood. Their faces were pale, but their aura was rising rapidly. Their punches and palms became more powerful, but unfortunately, it was not enough against the regal sword energy. They were still being sent flying, and they were constantly being injured. After more than 100 strikes, they were exhausted and their bodies were in pain. Their joints felt like they were dislocated, and they could not muster up any strength. Every punch and palm was forced out with all their might. Xiao Qi did not plan to stop at all. The regal sword energy had reached 40% completion. Moreover, the regal sword energy was getting denser. Before their fists and palms could attack, the sword energy had already reached them. They continued to spin around in the air. The regal sword's energy did not come from a single direction but from all directions. They were sent flying back and forth like sandbags as they continued to hover above Chu Li and the others without falling to the ground. There were puddles of blood on the ground. Xiao Shi's heart tightened as she was afraid that something bad would happen to them. Pang Shiji and Li Meng had no other thoughts. The regal sword energy was the only thing on their minds. They tried their best to block it. Unfortunately, the regal sword energy was pure and powerful. Their fists and palms could not stop it at all. They were hit again and again. They were injured and in pain. Their hearts tightened and they felt hopeless. Chu Li's voice was heard again. This time, it's the madam's attack. The next time, it'll be your enemy. It's useless even if you kneel and beg for mercy. You can only rely on yourself. You'll die if you give up, but you'll still have a chance to live if you don't. The two gritted their teeth and used all their strength. They were really fighting with their lives on the line. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. Under such circumstances, the blood dragon fruit and sky soaring pill's energy could be fully unleashed without being wasted. Bang bang! Pang Shiji and Li Meng fell to the ground. They were limp and motionless. Their faces were as pale as a sheet. They could not even move a finger. They had completely used up all their strength. The front of their clothes were dyed red with blood. When they fell to the ground, they were covered in mud. They were in a sorry state. Chu Li activated the life and death scripture. Suddenly, a mighty spiritual energy surged and engulfed them. As they bathed in the spiritual energy, their injuries healed faster. Chu Li lightly slapped his palm on top of their heads. The Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture reversed Yin and Yang, combining with the Life and Death Scripture's spiritual energy, multiplying its effects. The two of them felt that their injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths, their bodies were as good as new, as if they were not injured, or even better. Pang Shiji lightly kicked his feet and immediately soared into the air. He hurriedly used his internal energy to land on the ground, but with a pring sound, he sank into the soil up to his feet. He widened his eyes in disbelief as he looked at Chu Li and then at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi smiled. "Did your skills improve?" "Mistress, I don't think it's me anymore." Pang Shiji was overjoyed. Li Meng was in a daze. She sensed her own body and could already feel the surging inner energy. In the past, her inner energy was like a small stream, but now it was like a river. The difference was dozens of times. She could not imagine that she could possess such a deep inner energy. Chu Li flicked his finger, and with a pop sound Li Meng woke up. Li Meng looked at him nervously and blankly. "Don't worry, it's not a temporary increase," Chu Li said. Li Meng instantly smiled. "Masters Junior, is my cultivation really that powerful? You have to continue cultivating when you go back. Don't slack off," Chu Li said. Li Meng looked at the blood dragon tree. "You can only eat one at a time," Chu Li said. "You'll die if you eat too many." Li Meng looked disappointed. Chu Li said, "This thing is magical, but at the level of your master and I, it's useless to eat it. If you want to catch up to master, you'll have to rely on your own hard work. You can't count on it." "I see." Li Meng nodded helplessly. Chu Li said, "It's already saved you more than 10 years of time. Be grateful." Li Meng giggled. "Yes, thank you, Masters Junior." Pang Shiji was slightly disappointed. Chu Li gave him a sidelong glance, and he quickly straightened his expression. Chu Li did not blame the two of them. It was just human nature. If he were in their shoes, he would be the same. No one could avoid it. Their reaction was the truest, as they did not hide their thoughts in front of him. "Since you're here, stay for 2 days before going back," Chu Li said to Li Meng. Li Meng quickly nodded. Yes. Although the Great Light Peak was good, it was not as leisurely as this. She did not have to fight with those old men all day. Xiao Qi said, "Shiji, accompany Miss Li well. Don't neglect her. You young people have something to say." "Yes, master's wife." Pang Shiji nodded solemnly. Li Meng gave Pang Shiji a sidelong glance. Since Chu Li was present, she could not say much, so she just gave Xiao Qi a fist salute. Chu Li, Xiao Qi, Xiao Shi, and Xue Ling left, leaving only the two of them. Pang Shurji said, Miss Li, where do you want to go? Do you want to take a boat on the lake or go to the gazebo to enjoy the scenery? No need. Li Meng rolled her eyes at him. I'm more familiar with this place than you are. Pang Shurji smiled. Since Master's wife has instructed me, of course, I have to treat you well. You're really a lucky fellow to be apprenticed to Master's Junior Chu. Li Meng pouted. But you're also quite unlucky. How so? Pang Shurji asked with a smile. Everyone else envied him for being apprenticed to his master. A brilliant master could produce a brilliant disciple. He had a bright future ahead of him. Moreover, he had his master as his backing, so he was full of confidence. Li Meng scoffed. Master's Junior Chu is not a soft-hearted person. As his disciple, you must be under a lot of pressure. Pang Shurji gestured for her to sit in the gazebo. Li Meng did not object. The two of them sat in the gazebo next to them. Pang Shurji personally poured tea for them. Li Meng said, I've had a taste of Master's Junior Chu's teachings. It's really hard. Master is usually very busy and has no time to teach me. It's always Master's wife who teaches me martial arts. Pang Shurji smiled. So I don't know if Master is strict or not. I see. Li Meng nodded. That's considered lucky. Madame Chu looks cold on the outside but warm on the inside. She won't be too harsh, unlike Master's Junior Chu. At this point, she hurriedly shut her mouth and looked around. Pang Shurji smiled. Master won't mind. Humph, he'll definitely hear it. Forget it. Li Meng said. Pang Shurji asked, What is the relationship between Master and Master? Li Meng gave him a sidelong glance. What do you want to know? I've always been curious. Master is a citizen of the Ji dynasty, while your master is the bishop of the Li dynasty's Holy Church of Light. Their statuses and identities are very different. How could they be friends? It's really strange. You don't know? Li Meng asked with a smile. Pang Shurji shook his head. Li Meng chuckled. It's fine if you don't know. I didn't even tell you about this. This disciple of yours, hee. Pang Shurji smiled. Miss Li, do you know? Of course. Li Meng scoffed. I'm the only one who knows about this secret. No one else knows. Pang Shurji looked envious. Li Meng smiled. There's no harm in telling you. Master's Junior Chu has another identity. Chapter 1893. Li Meng said proudly, You're not allowed to tell anyone else. Of course not. Pang Shurji hurriedly nodded. Li Meng asked, Do you know Zhao Dai from the Holy Church of Light? I've heard of it. Pang Shurji hurriedly replied, He's the Holy Church of Light's newest prodigy. In just a few years, he's already ascended to the position of priest. He's an influential figure at the moment. How could he? Could he be master? That's right. Li Meng smiled and said, Now you won't be surprised by the friendship between my master and martial Uncle Chu, right? Zhao Dai is actually my master. Pang Shurji sighed with emotion. Although Zhao Dai was also a new genius, no one would have thought that he was actually Master Chu Li. Your master didn't recognize him? Pang Shurji asked. At that time, Master's Junior Chu was up to no good. He wanted to teach the Holy Church of Light a lesson on behalf of the Ji dynasty. After that, Master and Master's Junior Chu got to know each other through a fight, and their friendship slowly deepened. That's how things turned out, Li Meng said. Pang Shurji exclaimed in admiration, To be able to conceal your identity and ascend to such a high position, Master is indeed amazing. Li Meng said, You don't have martial Uncle Chu's ability. Pang Shurji shook his head. Initially, he thought highly of himself, but after learning martial arts from Shao Qi, he realized that his talent was far inferior to his master's. His master was able to understand the sword technique on his own in a short period of time, but he could not understand it for a long time under the guidance of his master's wife. The key was not the talent of the body, but the power of comprehension. The difference between them was like heaven and earth. Fortunately, he had a great master, and his comprehension was almost as high as his. As long as he trained hard, he would one day reach a level rarely seen in the world. Li Meng snorted, "You look stupid, but you're not as strong as martial Uncle Chu." She stood in front of Chu Li like a child meeting an adult. Master's junior Chu Li was only a few years older than her, but he gave her a lot of pressure. However, it was different in front of Pang Shiji. Pang Shiji was tall and strong, even taller than Chu Li, but he did not give her any sense of pressure at all. Pang Shiji scratched the back of his head and said helplessly, "I'm far behind Master." Master entered the public house as a scribe and climbed up the ranks step by step. He earned everything by himself, but I'm different. "What did you just eat?" Li Meng asked. "I think it's called the blood dragon fruit," Pang Shiji said. "It's a spirit tree that Master meticulously cultivated. It's very precious." Blood dragon fruit. Li Meng tilted her head and thought about it. She had never seen this name in the ancient books of the Holy Church of Light. She asked in a daze, "What effects does it have?" "Increase my power. It seems to strengthen the body, wash the marrow, and then increase the power," Pang Shiji said. Li Meng said, "I don't feel like I've been reborn either." Pang Shiji said, "That must be because you've already shaved your hair and cleansed your marrow, so you can't feel it." Li Meng nodded slowly. She recalled the time when Chu Li threw her into the ice pond. After she came out of the ice pond, her body had undergone an earth-shattering change. It seemed that after experiencing it once, eating the fruit again would not have such an effect. Chu Li, Xiao Shi, and Xiao Qi sat in their own courtyard. Xueling served them tea and left. "This young Li Meng is very beautiful." Xiao Shi giggled. "Chu Li, what are you planning?" Chu Li shook his head. Xiao Qi said, "I think Shiji has fallen for her." Chu Li waved his hand and said, "Don't get involved in this matter. Li Meng is the next saint, so you can't get involved in a romantic relationship. If Shiji falls in love with her, he'll only suffer." He regretted allowing the two to meet. Pang Shiji looked smart, but he was simple and honest, so his reflexes were not sharp enough. On the other hand, Li Meng looked delicate and innocent, but she was extremely intelligent. When the two of them were together, Li Meng would feel that Pang Shiji was slow and clumsy, so she would be anxious when she was with him. As Sun Mingyue's disciple, Li Meng knew that there were many young talents in the Holy Church of Light. He knew that Li Meng would have very high standards, so it would be difficult for her to fall for Pang Shiji. Pang Shiji was handsome and had a master, but he was useless in Li Meng's eyes. If Pang Shiji fell for her, he would inevitably be tortured and ask for trouble. No matter how clever Chu Li was and how powerful the Heavenly Star Insight skill was, he never expected that Pang Shiji would fall in love with Li Meng at first sight. Xiao Shi chuckled. "So what if she's a saint? She just can't get married." Xiao Qi said, "A saint is human too, she has feelings too. The entire Holy Church of Light is on our shoulders, and we're always scheming against each other. We don't have time to care about feelings." Chu Li shook his head. "Forget it, both of them will suffer. Shiji doesn't need to suffer." Xiao Qi nodded. "Let nature take its course." Chu Li looked at Xiao Shi. "Second eldest sister, don't add fuel to the fire." "Understood." Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at him. Xiao Qi asked, "Now that the blood dragon fruit has ripened, are you going to increase the strength of Crouching Bull Mountain?" Chu Li nodded. "It's time." He was eager to condense the Chakram Pagoda and obtain the second half of the Heavenly Star Jade record as soon as possible. He had a sense of crisis, as if a great disaster was about to happen. He could not explain this feeling, but he believed it. He did not know how to avoid it, but he knew that he had to increase his strength as soon as possible. Not only did he have to increase his strength, but he also had to increase his forces. Xiao Qi said, "Be careful not to spread this, or else Crouching Bull Mountain will not be safe." Chu Li nodded. People were not greedy enough, and Crouching Bull Mountain's current reputation and strength were not enough to deter the heroes. Once the news that there was a mutant fruit that could increase one's strength was spread, they would soon be attacked by others, and there would be a bloodbath. Crouching Bull Mountain surpassing boundary, Chu-Li sat on a high platform halfway up the valley and looked at the 60 grandmasters below. This high platform was located next to a cave halfway up the mountain wall. It was only 2 meters square and stood out abruptly. One could not help but admire the wonderful workmanship of nature. To be able to form such a platform on a straight cliff, one could not help but admire the ingenuity of nature. "Hill Master, why did you summon us here?" Xia Lian Fist saluted. The 60 grandmasters stood below the platform and looked up at Chu-Li about 50 meters away. The Hill Master's enthronement ceremony had ended, and as soon as it ended, the Hill Master issued an order for all grandmasters in Crouching Bull Mountain to return to the surpassing boundary. Crouching Bull Mountain was now empty, and this worried Xia Lian, Murong Chun, and the other elders. If Skyward Palace found out about this and took the opportunity to attack, Crouching Bull Mountain would be finished. Chu-Li said calmly, "Qiao San." "Yes, Hill Master." Qiao San appeared from the cave next to him, holding a box in his hand. Chu-Li said, "Distribute it." "Yes." Qiao San responded respectfully and glided down the high platform. He opened the box and distributed the fruits to everyone. Chu-Li said, "Eat it immediately after you get it, don't delay." "Hill Master?" Xia Lian was stunned, and he quickly asked, "What fruit is this?" Chu-Li said, "Are you worried that I'll harm you?" "Of course not." Xia Lian quickly said. Chu-Li said, "It's good for you. Just eat it, and the sooner you eat it, the greater the benefit." When Xia Lian heard this, he immediately took a bite. His expression changed slightly, but he still finished it in one go. Murong Chun was a little hesitant, but when he saw Xia Lian's reaction, he also ate it fiercely. Chapter 1894. After eating it, Chu-Li nodded at Qiao San. Qiao San quickly passed the sky-soaring pills to them and asked them to consume them immediately. Since they had already eaten such a disgusting fruit, it was not a big deal to eat another pill. Hence, they took it, crushed the beeswax, and threw it into their mouth. It turned into a clear stream of air that seeped into their organs. Chu-Li suddenly smiled coldly and shouted, "Since you've eaten this, prepare to die." As he finished speaking, he suddenly threw a punch. A huge green bull suddenly appeared in front of everyone and charged into the crowd. Wherever it passed, people were sent flying. No one could withstand the green bull's charge. It was invincible. Chu-Li did not stop throwing punch after punch. Every time he threw a punch, a force was infused into the green bull. The green bull did not dissipate and charged forward like a real bull. No one could stop it. Chu-Li laughed. "You've consumed poison, you'll all die." Xia Lian was in disbelief, and so was Murong Chun. They felt that Chu-Li had suddenly changed into a different person. His expression was cold and cruel, as if he really wanted to eat them. It felt surreal, like it was just a dream. "Hill Master, why?" Xia Lian blurted out. Chu-Li laughed coldly. "I saw you as an eyesore, so I killed all of you." "Hill Master, if we die, who else will serve Crouching Bull Mountain?" Murong Chun asked. As soon as he finished speaking, he was sent flying by the green bull again. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu-Li said, "Don't worry, even if you die, more masters will appear. Crouching Bull Mountain has no lack of masters." "Hill Master, we're not convinced," Xia Lian shouted. Chu-Li scoffed. "You'll die even if you're not convinced." "Hill Master, let's see how powerful you are." Murong Chun gritted his teeth and shouted. He suddenly turned in the air and rushed towards Chu-Li, who was on the high platform. Chu-Li shook his head and laughed. "You've overestimated yourself." After he threw another punch, another green bull appeared in the air. It was as huge as an elephant and looked so real that it crashed towards him. Murong Chun flew into the air like a rag doll, His eyes widened in disbelief. He did not expect Chu Li to be able to create 2 green bulls with such power. Chu Li punched again and formed another green bull. The 3 green oxen seemed to have come to life as they charged around wildly. In front of them, everyone was as small and helpless as ants. They tried to dodge, but they were unable to. They could only desperately face the attack. 2 or 3 of them worked together, but it was useless. They were still sent flying by the green ox, and their injuries continued to increase. Chu Li stood on the high platform, punching out again and again. The fist force landed on the green bull's body, maintaining it from dispersing. The crouching bull insight was indeed mysterious. When he first obtained it, he did not pay much attention to it. After all, it was still a level lower than the mystical arts that he had learned. Now that he had returned to Crouching Bull Mountain and studied the Crouching Bull insight, he realized that it was indeed a top-notch magnum opus. With the Heavenly Star Void insight skill, his understanding of the Crouching Bull insight deepened, and its power grew stronger. Although it was not as powerful as the Supreme Vajrapalm, it was enough for him to dominate the world. A quarter of an hour later, the ground was littered with experts. None of them were able to stand upright, all of them lying on the ground. Ah! Xia Lian looked up to the sky and screamed. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. He suddenly appeared in front of them and said, "I was just joking, don't take it seriously." Xia Lian looked at him in shock. Murong Chun and the others who were lying on the ground also widened their eyes. Chu Li chuckled and said, "Let everyone witness the power of the Crouching Bull insight, it'll give them confidence." "Hill Master, this joke isn't funny at all." Xia Lian smiled bitterly. Murong Chun said impatiently, "Hill Master, this is too much, isn't it?" Chu Li said, "If I don't do this, how can I make everyone fight with their lives?" "Why do you fight with your lives?" Xia Lian asked. Chu Li smiled and said, "You'll find out later." His body turned into a phantom and quickly circled around the crowd. He slapped each of them, and after spiritual energy surged into them, their injuries were quickly healed. After a quarter of an hour, everyone got up, their faces filled with disbelief. They noticed that they had been reborn. Their bodies were as light as feathers, and their strength was like that of a bull. They were actually a few times stronger than before. This was something they never expected. When they saw the Hill Master feeding them food and pills, some of them guessed that it might be beneficial, but the benefits were far beyond their imagination. They initially thought that increasing their powers by 50% was already the limit, and that it was almost impossible to double it, but now it was a few times stronger. Chu Li said calmly, "Everyone can feel it, right?" "Hill Master." Xia Lian hesitated for a moment. "What's going on? It's not an illusion, is it?" Chu Li said, "These are the rare fruits and spirit pills that I obtained from a fortuitous encounter. I'll let everyone have a fortuitous encounter as well. As for how much their powers will increase, it'll depend on their own talent." "How can this be?" Xia Lian said hurriedly. Chu Li smiled and said, "Since I'm the Hill Master, I'll naturally think of everyone when there's something good. How can I hog it all for myself? Moreover, my strength alone is far from being as strong as everyone in the Crouching Bull Mountain. Only then, the Crouching Bull Mountain can become one of the 4 major sections." The Hill Master's breadth of mind really leaves people speechless, Murong Chun praised. He knew that if it were him, he would definitely not do such a thing. What kind of breadth of mind did Chu Li have to give such a rare item to others? Even if it was a disciple of the Crouching Bull Mountain, it was not him, nor was it his family. Such breadth of mind might be called stupid, but he could only sigh in admiration. He believed that after this incident, all the disciples of the Crouching Bull Mountain would definitely not have second thoughts, even if they had to go through fire and water. Chu Li said in a low voice, "Now that the celestial being has descended, the world is in chaos. It's wishful thinking for the Crouching Bull Mountain to think that it can stay alone. No one can escape from the turbulence. Only by strengthening our own strength can we protect ourselves in this chaotic world. Hill Master, please give us your orders, Duan Tianya said in a low voice. Chu Li nodded and said, My orders are for everyone to train hard. The Crouching Bull Mountain must amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Yes. Everyone shouted in unison. Chu Li saw that everyone was in high spirits and had a good morale, so he nodded in satisfaction. Then everyone should train hard. The Victory region is full of spiritual energy, it's the most suitable place for training. As for what happened today, everyone should know that it can't be spread, or else the Crouching Bull Mountain will be destroyed. Yes, everyone said in a low voice. They were not stupid, they knew the seriousness of this matter. If the secret was leaked, everyone would be in trouble, and the Crouching Bull Mountain would become the target of public criticism. No matter how powerful they were, they could not stop the greedy heroes of the martial arts world. Chu Li waved his hand and said, Go! Everyone dispersed, but Xia Lian and Murong Chun followed. They were extremely curious about what they had eaten. It was a rare fruit that they had never seen before, and their hearts were itching. Chu Li immediately interrupted them. You don't have to ask too much, it's best if you don't know. Are we really not allowed to know? Xia Lian was not satisfied. Chu Li shook his head. In the future, those who make great contributions will be rewarded like this. Xia Lian smiled and said, If that's the case, why should we worry that the Crouching Bull Mountain won't prosper? The Hill Master was so selfless, giving such a rare fruit as a reward. The disciples of the Crouching Bull Mountain would definitely work hard. If they worked together, the prosperity of the Crouching Bull Mountain would be just around the corner. Chapter 1895. Chu Li asked everyone to cultivate in the divine realm while he returned to the High Duke's public house to prepare for isolated cultivation. He wanted to condense the rotary pagoda as soon as possible so that he could control his life and death. In the early morning, he was watching Li Meng and Pang Shiji spar in the courtyard. He originally planned to separate them and let Pang Shiji return to Goddess Attraction Mountain while Li Meng stayed for a while to give her some pointers. However, Xiao Shi mocked him for asking which one was his disciple. Xiao Qi was also displeased. Chu Li thought about it and decided to let both of them stay. As a master, he could not watch Pang Shiji fall deeper and deeper, so he asked them to spar and spend more time with each other. Love at first sight would often lead to falling deeply in love. If they were to separate suddenly, they would beautify each other even more and fall deeper. He wanted Pang Shiji to see Li Meng's flaws clearly and reduce their feelings. Distance made the heart grow fonder. If he reduced the distance between them, he would realize that the other was not beautiful enough and would not like her as much. This was the only thing he could do now. No matter how strong one's martial arts was, he could not control his disciple's heart. Shiji. Chu Li sat beside Xiao Qi and said slowly, You're my disciple, so you represent my reputation. Li Meng is Bishop Sun's disciple, so he represents the Holy Church of Light. You know what to do. Yes, Master. Pang Shiji gritted his teeth and replied. He was prepared to go easy on Li Meng and deliberately let her win, but his master saw through him. In front of his master, his thoughts were as clear as the lines on his palm. His master did not rely on martial arts alone to become the world's #1 master. He also relied on his accurate judgment. Otherwise, he would have been killed by someone more powerful before he could become the world's #1 master. Chu Li added, As a man, if your martial arts isn't as good as a woman's, it'll be too unbecoming and people will look down on you. Yes, Pang Shiji said. He was suddenly filled with fighting spirit. Yes, as a man, if he could not defeat a woman, how could he make her fall in love with him? He would only be looked down on. A woman would not fall in love with someone she looked down on. Li Meng, Bishop Sun's teaching standards will depend on your performance. Chu Li nodded. Let's begin. Li Meng nodded vigorously. Her big bright eyes stared hard at Pang Shiji. She was full of fighting spirit. She swore to defeat him and win glory for her master. Her master was not as good as martial Uncle Chu, but she wanted to defeat Pang Shiji and win back 10% for her master. Miss Li, please. Pang Shiji shouted. Li Meng snorted. Please. She threw out a light punch, soft as if there were no bones in it. It was as if she did not use any fist force and was only doing it out of courtesy. Pang Shiji was not careless and took a step back to avoid it. Bang! His figure suddenly swayed. His chest had already been punched and he almost flew out. He staggered a step back, and with a serious expression, he swung his palm to meet the second punch. Bang! Both of them took a step back. Their internal energy was equally matched. Pang Shiji had been cultivating for a longer period of time and had become a grandmaster a long time ago, but his progress in cultivation was slow. Li Meng, on the other hand, had only been cultivating for a short period of time, but she had received Chu Li's guidance. She had been reborn and recited Buddhist scriptures, which had laid a solid foundation. The Great Light Scripture was also a martial art that could be learned quickly, so her inner energy cultivation level was not inferior to Pang Shiji's. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. This Li Meng was indeed a genius, and she was much better than Pang Shiji. Pang Shiji's expression became more serious. He knew about Li Meng. She had only cultivated for a short period of time, but her cultivation level was not inferior to his. If he were to lose, he would be too ashamed to face anyone. His figure suddenly flashed, and he turned into a ghost. His palms were extremely fast, and he struck out with the cloud-slashing palm. Bang 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 bang. Li Meng took on his cloud-slashing palm head-on, and realized that the cloud-slashing palm was strange. The palm force was extremely pure, and it directly penetrated the fist force of the divine light fist. After entering her meridians, it quickly devoured her inner energy to strengthen itself, which hindered the circulation of her heart technique. After a few palm strikes, she felt like she had lost control of her inner energy. Before she could use her ultimate skill, Pang Shiji suddenly sped up and disappeared. Then, she felt a pain in her back, and the scenery in front of her quickly retreated. She was already in the air. She wanted to control her body to land steadily, but she realized that the inner energy in her body had disappeared without a trace. Xiao Qi's regal sword energy moved, and instantly, she was supported, and gently landed on the ground. Thank you, Miss Li. Pang Shiji gave a fist salute. Li Meng pursed her red lips and scoffed. Good palm technique, I'm impressed. Cloud-slashing palm. Pang Shiji said. The cloud-slashing palm was marvelous, and it was far better than the palm technique that he had learned before. Moreover, its power was astonishing. If it were not for this palm technique and body movement technique, he would definitely not be able to win against Li Meng. Li Meng had not mastered these antique studies because she had only cultivated for a short period of time. Once she had completely mastered cult leader Sun's martial arts, the outcome of the battle would be uncertain. After all, no matter how strong her master was, she had not been able to completely learn it. Li Meng scoffed. Cloud-slashing palm. Chu Li said, Li Meng, there's a problem with your divine light fist. There's a problem? Li Meng was shocked. This was personally taught by my master. Chu Li nodded. The divine light fist isn't cultivated like this, so you can't fully unleash its power. As he spoke, the great light scripture circulated in his body, and then, he lightly threw a punch. Suddenly, a stream of light flashed, and then, with a muffled bang, a rock on the artificial hill opposite him cracked into several pieces. I performed this punch according to the level of your inner energy, Chu Li said. After you go back, you must find a Buddhist scripture and recite it 100 times every day without stopping. Yes. Li Meng nodded excitedly. Masters Junior, how did you do it? Chu Li said, Your fist force is only your own inner energy. In fact, this punch needs to draw on the power of heaven and earth. If you can't draw on the power of heaven and earth for your use, its power will be slightly weaker. Then why didn't my master say anything? Li Meng tilted her head and asked. Chu Li said, your master was too lazy to tell you, so he wanted you to realize it yourself. I was anxious, so I pointed it out directly. Li Meng slowly nodded and tried to throw a punch, but it was still formless and traceless. It did not have the strange phenomenon that Chu Li had just now. Chu Li shook his head. I still haven't grasped the main point. What is the main point? Li Meng asked. Chu Li smiled. This is what you need to realize on your own. I can only point out this much. You'll have to rely on yourself for the rest. All right. Li Meng blinked his big eyes, thought about it, and threw another punch. Shao Qi and Shao Shi looked at him with a faint smile. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. Sun Mingyue's martial arts attainment was profound. After all, the Great Light Peak had a long history of martial arts heritage, and Sun Mingyue was a diligent person, so she must have read all the books in the collection. Therefore, the depth of her martial arts attainment was not something that ordinary people could imagine. However, Sun Mingyue could see through people's hearts but not their bodies. She was not as good at observing martial arts heart techniques as Chu Li was, so she did not notice Li Meng's problem. She only thought that it was because he had not mastered it well enough. In fact, it was not wrong to say that he had not mastered it well enough. As long as he had mastered it well, he would naturally be able to draw on the power of heaven and earth. However, if Chu Li pointed it out in advance, he could avoid many detours and master it faster. Suddenly, Xue Ling fluttered over and handed him a letter. Chu Li glanced at her and took the letter. After quickly reading it, his expression became serious. Shao Qi asked, "What's wrong?" Chu Li sighed. "King Ping has left." "Left?" Shao Qi asked, "Where?" Chapter 1896. King Ping has ascended to heaven? Xiao Shi frowned, her beautiful face was solemn. Did someone assassinate King Ping? Chu Li shook his head. There was no assassination this time. King Ping left on his own. Why? Xiao Shi asked. Did he have something he couldn't get over? Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. King Ping hasn't been able to resolve the knot in his heart. Since Consort Ping has ascended to heaven, he decided to follow her. He doesn't want to be alone in this world anymore. Consort Ping ascended to heaven? Xiao Qi asked. The new Consort Ping? Chu Li nodded. Xiao Qi frowned. How did that happen? Chu Li explained. It might be related to the conflict between sections. Either way, Consort Ping is ascending to heaven and King Ping is following her. He gave me this letter before he left to ask me to understand that he can't be the emperor anymore. Sigh. King Ping is such an infatuated man. Xiao Shi shook her head. Who would have thought that he would be so affectionate as a general? Chu Li nodded. King Ping was extremely conceited. It was precisely because of this that he was devastated by the death of the previous Consort Ping. Even after he had a new Consort Ping, he still could not recover and always had thoughts of abandoning the world. Now that the new Consort Ping was ascending to heaven, he would leave this world and be completely free. He could understand King Ping's thoughts, but as a crown prince, this was too capricious. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. King Ping trusted him too much. It was because of him that King Ping could leave this world and go to the outland with peace of mind. He even said that they would meet again in the future, so there was no need for him to say goodbye. Xiao Qi frowned. What should we do? King Ping was supposed to inherit the throne. His sudden departure had messed up all his plans. Chu Li's hard work had gone down the drain. Ling Shoren was the happiest person now. Chu Li turned to look at Xiao Shi. Second eldest sister, let's go to the Titanium Temple. You want Su En to leave the temple? Xiao Shi asked. Chu Li nodded slowly. Seo Shi said, "He's a stubborn fellow. It's hard to change his mind once he's set on something. He's not interested in the throne. Why should we force him? If the people don't suffer, let him inherit the throne. I won't be at ease if there's anyone else," Chu Li said. "All right, let's give it a try." Xiao Shi nodded. If it had been someone else, they might not have understood Chu Li's concern for the nation and the people. They might have felt that he was being a busybody and asking for trouble. However, as the young ladies of the public house, they had been nurtured since they were young and had a broad mind. They could not only care about themselves, so they supported Chu Li's decision. Chu Li looked at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi nodded. "Don't worry, I'll take care of them." Chu Li then looked at Pang Shiji. "Don't let your mistress worry too much. Focus on your cultivation." Then, he looked at Li Meng. Li Meng hurriedly said, "Don't worry, martial uncle. I won't meddle." Chu Li nodded. He grabbed Seo Shi's wrist and disappeared. Early in the morning, the Jin Gang temple was shrouded in purple mist. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. This was the purple energy harvested from heaven and earth. It was the purest energy. The pagoda and the formation were harvesting this purple energy to nourish and strengthen the titanium temple. The temple door was tightly shut. Chu Li and Seo Shi stood outside the temple. Through the observation of the omniscient mirror, he could vaguely see that the monks in the temple were gathered together through the golden light. He went forward and knocked on the temple door. The entire titanium temple only had the temple door, as the rest of the place was covered by the formation. Suan quickly appeared and opened the temple door to invite them in. "What's going on inside? Is it appropriate for us to go in?" Chu Li asked. Suan said, "Chief Chu Li and our temple have a long history. There's no need to be an outsider. Please come in." After Seo Shi and Chu Li entered the temple door, they saw more than 20 red-shirt monks sitting at the bottom of the steps. There were middle-aged monks, old monks, and young novice monks. She could not help but ask, "What's going on?" "Honorable Master Jiyu is about to preach," Suan said. "Preach?" Seo Shi looked at Chu Li. "Why don't we stay outside the temple for a while?" Chu Li smiled. "I wanted to listen to the preach." Seo Shi rolled her eyes. She did not want to listen to an old monk's nagging. She would rather cultivate for a while. Now that she belonged to the Tai Ching sect, she did not walk the same path as Buddhism, so she did not want to listen. Chu Li smiled. Listening to the preach of a master is bound to be rewarding. This is a rare opportunity, you can't even come across it. Suan smiled and nodded in agreement. Honorable Master Jiyu only preaches once every 10 years. All right, let's listen then, Seo Shi said. The monks did not react to their arrival. It was as if they did not know. They sat with the curtains closed, motionless as if they were meditating. Suan also sat down. Seo Shi sat beside him. Just as she was about to speak, Chu Li pulled her sleeve and gave her a look. Seo Shi shut her mouth and looked around. Slow footsteps were heard. An old monk in red slowly walked out of the temple. He stood on the steps and sat down slowly. The old monk was skinny and skinny. He walked shakily as if he could fall at any time. His loose red robe swayed on his body as if there was no body in the robe. A gust of wind could blow the robe and the old monk up into the sky. Chu Li's face turned serious. Although the omniscient mirror was restrained and its power was greatly reduced, he could still see the 3 halos at the back of the old monk's head. They emitted a gentle radiance. Amitabha Buddha. Monk Jiyu sat cross-legged on the steps. He put his skinny hands together and chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha Buddha. The monks chanted the name of Buddha. Chu Li's vision blurred and suddenly changed. It was as if he was standing on the surface of the sea. The seawater swayed and his body swayed, but he did not sink. He was only floating on the surface of the sea. There was a huge lotus in the void. An old monk sat cross-legged on the lotus. It was Monk Jiyu. A bright moon appeared behind Monk Jiyu's head. It emitted a gentle radiance that enveloped his body and Chu-Li, who was standing on the surface of the sea. Amitabha Buddha, Monk Zhiyu spoke slowly. His voice was gentle and sweet. It was indescribably moving. One could not help but want to listen to it, as I have heard. A Buddhist doctrine that Chu-Li had never heard before was softly chanted. Without Monk Zhiyu's explanation, Chu-Li naturally understood. Suddenly, Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture moved. The scenery in front of him quickly disappeared. He then realized that he was still sitting at the bottom of the steps. Monk Zhiyu was sitting on the step. Amitabha Buddha. Monk Zhiyu's chants echoed in Chu-Li's ears. He looked up. Monk Zhiyu was looking at him quietly. Their eyes met in the air. Chu-Li pressed his palms together. Monk Zhiyu nodded slightly. He took out a string of prayer beads and tossed it to Chu-Li. The pitch-black prayer beads landed in front of Chu-Li. Chu-Li reached out to receive it and pressed his palms together. He knew that the gift from Monk Zhiyu was not an ordinary item. When their eyes met, there was a tacit understanding between them. He knew that Monk Zhiyu cultivated Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture. He never thought that Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture could have such a magical effect. He had been using it to strengthen his mind and not be confused by foreign objects. Now, it seemed like it could be used to confuse foreign objects. Chapter 1897. The Mahavairokkana in the void of his mind opened his eyes. The Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture was activated and the black prayer beads in his hand suddenly turned into a golden light and entered between his eyebrows. The golden light directly entered between the eyebrows of the Mahavairokkana in the void of his mind. Suddenly, an eye appeared between Mahavairokkana's eyebrows. The vertical eye was different from a human's eye, it was stern and compassionate. A realization flowed in his mind, and he immediately understood the name of this eye. It was called the Eye of Dharma Relaying. This Eye of Dharma Relaying was only one of the magical effects of the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture, but it was difficult to know without the inheritance. Without the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture, this Eye of Dharma Relaying could not be used as it would confuse one's mind. Most importantly, without sufficient soul energy, one could not withstand this Eye of Dharma Relaying. Monk Zhiyu passed this Eye of Dharma Relaying to him because he could escape from the realm created by the Eye of Dharma Relaying. Chu-Li opened his eyes and bowed with pressed palms again. Such a magical technique was passed down to him. He owed the Titanium Temple a huge favor. Monk Zhiyu smiled and turned to enter the basilica. At this time, the monks were still immersed in the illusion created by the Eye of Dharma Relaying. As they listened to the Dharma, their bodies and minds were intoxicated. Chu-Li turned his head and patted Suan lightly. Suan immediately woke up from the illusion. His expression was calm and serene. It was obvious that he was enlightened and his Dharma had improved. "Follow me," Chu-Li said. Suan got up and walked out with Chu-Li and Xiao Shi to a gazebo outside the temple. The ancient gazebo was located in a pine forest. A breeze blew and the pine trees rustled. "Suan, you have to go back and be the emperor," Chu-Li said. Suan was stunned and wanted to say something. Chu-Li waved his hand and said, "Let me finish." He then told him in detail about what happened with Ling Shoren and King Ping. Suan listened thoughtfully. Chu-Li said, "You chose to use the Dharma to enlighten the people, but when you need to save them, you run away. If you don't face the difficulties, how can your Dharma improve?" Xiao Shi was a little anxious. These words might not work. Suan's sword-like eyebrows moved, but he remained silent. Chu-Li said, "The 10 lifetimes of Buddhahood technique is marvelous, but it's not easy to cultivate it. The experience of being an emperor is also a great training for you. Ordinary people don't have such an opportunity. Only by experiencing the most prosperous of the world can you truly see through the mortal world and have a perfect Buddha's heart. Because you're afraid of prosperity, you're afraid of being trapped in it. This is not beneficial to your Buddha's heart, and it'll be difficult to perfect it. But I need enough time to cultivate. Suan sighed and said, once you fall into the world of mortals, you will not be able to control yourself. You will be busy with the affairs of the country all day long. How would you have the time to cultivate and waste this life? Chu Li shook his head. It's not that there's no way around it. Suan looked at him in surprise. Chu Li said, let her help. She pointed at Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi pointed at herself and glared at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled and said, second eldest sister, you have nothing to do anyway. You can help Suan deal with the affairs of the court. You're very clear about the affairs of the court. Moreover, you've been influenced by the public house since you were young, so you're more proficient than ordinary people. I can't do it myself, I still need younger sister. Xiao Shi said, in terms of understanding the human heart, I'm not as good as younger sister. Moreover, younger sister has always been dealing with the matters of the public house. She's better at dealing with the affairs of the court. It was not difficult to treat the country as the public house. The key was that she had Chu Li to support her, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Chu Li turned his head and smiled at Suan. You can just bear the title of emperor and ignore the mundane affairs. Let them take care of it. If that's the case, I can only agree, Suan said slowly. He was moved by Chu Li's Buddha's heart. In order to have a Buddha's heart, one needed to be courageous and diligent. The fear of the throne was indeed a demon in one's heart. It would be difficult to achieve perfection, so he had to face the difficulties head-on. Moreover, even if he became the emperor, he would not have to worry about too many things. He could still continue to cultivate. This could not be better. Chu Li let out a smile. Xiao Shi smiled and said, that's right. Chu Li said, then let's return to the fairy's capital. Yes, Suan said slowly. I'll pack my bag and leave today. Chu Li nodded. Xiao Shi said, I'll wait for you at the imperial residence. Suan bowed with pressed palms. After he agreed, he suddenly felt relieved. It was an indescribable feeling of relief. The thoughts that were bothering him dispersed and his cultivation level actually improved. Lung Shoren was drinking by himself in the imperial garden. Chu Li suddenly appeared. Ling Shoren wore a bright yellow robe that shone under the light. When he saw Chu Li, he put down his wine glass and shook his head. Do you know about Fourth Brother's ascension? That's why I'm here, Chu Li nodded. Ling Shoren sighed and raised his wine glass again. I really can't understand Fourth Brother's thoughts. He didn't sit on the throne and directly ascended just to accompany his wife. It's really, Chu Li said. His Royal Highness has already lost a princess and can't accompany her. If he can't accompany the second princess, he won't be able to forgive himself. Moreover, he's tired of the country's affairs. Sigh. Lung Shoren shook his head. What a stubborn fellow. Chu Li smiled and said, Your Majesty, have you thought about who to pass the throne to? Suan, Ling Shoren said, as long as you convince Suan to take over the throne, I'll pass the throne to him. Chu Li smiled. Your Majesty, you're not satisfied, right? Or are you thinking about Lung Feng? I've thought it through. Lung Shoren shook his head. Feng heir doesn't have this life, he can't afford it. I want you to promise me that you must ensure that the Empress lives a prosperous life. You can't mistreat her. Chu Li slowly nodded. Don't worry, Your Majesty. As long as I'm here, I'll ensure that the Empress lives a prosperous life. That's good. Lung Shoren sighed. I owe Feng heir, but I owe the Empress even more. Chu Li smiled. Your Majesty, you're thinking too much. The Empress will live a good life. I'll think of a way for the Empress to cultivate martial arts and reach the Grandmaster's boundary so that she can reunite with the Emperor in the future. Lung Shoren smiled, but he did not believe him. Chu Li asked, How did Consort Ping die? She was killed by a celestial being. Lung Shoren said, I wanted to help, but I was held back by another celestial being. Celestial being? Chu Li frowned. It should be a grudge between sections. Lung Shoren said, "There are sects and grudges in the Grandmaster's boundary too. Now that this world is involved, chaos is inevitable. Chu Li, no matter how strong you are, can you stop these celestial beings from attacking you? They have a heavy responsibility and they still dare to mess around?" Chu Li frowned. Lung Shoren said, "The mission is first, but if we meet our enemies while we're completing the mission, will the celestial beings tolerate it? After they came to this world, they became unscrupulous and hot-tempered. How can they tolerate it?" Chu Li slowly nodded. If it was a grudge between sects, it should be a grudge between the mysterious Lady of Nine Heavens. Lu Yurong was also from the mysterious Lady of Nine Heavens, so she should not be able to escape. Fortunately, Lu Yurong was not in danger. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind suddenly moved and he disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he appeared in the Ren public house. The Ren public house was ablaze, illuminating the entire public house. The public house seemed to be in a sea of fire. Amidst the fireworks, there were people fighting everywhere. Chu Li frowned and looked in the direction of Lu Yurong. Chapter 1898. Seeing the four of them teaming up against Lu Yurong, the white veil covering Lu Yurong's face was dyed red with blood and her eyes were dull. The elusive ninth heaven fairy above her head was also dull, as if it would disappear at any time. Chu Li was furious. He used the omniscient mirror and suppressed his anger. He was not in a hurry to act but observed carefully first. The four celestial beings all had a blood-red moon above their head. The blood moon was absorbing spiritual energy from heaven and earth crazily. It could even directly absorb spiritual energy from the outland and continuously send it into their bodies to maintain their violent attack. Lu Yurong's elusive ninth heaven fairy was also absorbing spiritual energy, but under the dull light, the absorption speed was far slower than the blood moon. The spiritual energy absorbed by the blood moon seemed to be extremely violent, causing the four celestial beings to become fearless. They attacked desperately, disregarding their own injuries. Lu Yurong originally injured them and had the upper hand, but she was suppressed to the point where she could not breathe and her life was in danger. Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong had obviously used a secret skill and was in a state of collapse. She would not be able to hold on soon. If it was someone else, they would have been seriously injured or even dead. She was completely relying on her wisdom to struggle and buy time. Chu Li's killing intent rose. The god-punishing thunder sword in his mind instantly turned into dozens of god-punishing needles and shot towards the 36 grandmasters who invaded the Run public house. Ah! Those who were attacking suddenly screamed and then fell to the ground, holding their heads and rolling. Some were strong enough to hold back their screams but still held their heads and rolled. The pain had exceeded their endurance limit and they could not control their bodies. This time, Chu Li did not show up directly but hid in the dark. The feeling of hiding in the dark and plotting against others was very exciting. Lu Yurong only felt an invisible force surging into her body. After it entered her body, it immediately turned into her own strength. Her originally empty body was instantly filled to the brim, and her skills were restored to their original state. In fact, it was even continuously increasing, and she immediately felt refreshed. She immediately knew that Chu Li had come and her heart could not help but calm down. Bam 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 bam. She felt stronger than before. When she hit with her palm, the power was twice as strong as before. She gritted her teeth and used the secret skill again. The mysterious fairy of the 9 heavens in the void above his head began to become clear. Spiritual chi surged down like a river. Even if an ordinary person looked carefully, they would be able to vaguely see a shadow. The influx of this inner force not only strengthened her inner force, but it also nourished her spirit and restored its vigor. Only then could she perform the secret skill for the second time and exert the Empyrean fairy power to its fullest potential. Chu Li frowned as he looked at the maids who were fending off the other grandmasters. If they did not leave Lu Yurong's side and the 10 of them worked together, these 4 celestial beings would not be able to do anything to Lu Yurong. However, Chu Li could also guess that Lu Yurong could only do this. She had no other choice. The protectors of the Ren public house could not stop the 36 invading grandmasters, so she could only send out her maids. Chu Li suppressed his anger and only helped them secretly. Lu Yurong continued to wave her palms, once again suppressing the 4 celestial beings. Even though they risked their lives to fight, in front of absolute power, they were beaten back again and again, unable to pose any threat to Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong suddenly shouted. The Empyrean fairy palm suddenly became illusory, turned into several shadows and shot at the 4 celestial beings at the same time. Their eyes were bloodshot as they fought with their lives. Facing this palm shadow, they did not hesitate to take it head-on. Then, with a bang-bang sound, they were shaken and spat out blood in the air. Chu Li shook his head. These celestial beings were quite strange. The blood moon above their heads was definitely problematic. It could affect their minds, or else these 4 celestial beings would not be so reckless. However, their strength was indeed extremely strong. Lu Yurong cultivated in Goddess Attraction Mountain and even took the sky soaring pill. Her cultivation level was not something a grandmaster could compare to. Although she was not as good as an enlightened master, she was only a step away. These 4 celestial beings were able to force her into this state. It was very impressive. Bang 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 bang. Lu Yurong did not let them go. Her body moved like lightning, chasing after the 4 celestial beings to beat them. In the end, the 4 celestial beings turned into 4 rays of light and shot into the sky, entering the slowly appearing divine gate, and then the divine gate disappeared. Lu Yurong's body was like a shadow, quickly passing through the entire Ren public house, killing the 36 grandmasters one by one, not leaving a single one alive. Her ruthlessness did not lose to Chu Li's. Chu Li watched from the side. These 36 grandmasters had killed many Ren public house protectors before he came. At this time, these protectors of the Ren public house who were killed were being fed spirit blessing pills. With the spirit blessing pill, almost all of them could live, but it was also a waste of a spirit blessing pill. One spirit blessing pill was equivalent to 1 life. As the relationship between Ren Public House and E Public House improved, E Public House gave Ren Public House a batch of spirit blessing pills. Almost every protector was given one, but it was impossible to supply them all the time. Lu Yurong was even more furious. If it was not for Chu Li's appearance today, Ren Public House would have been destroyed. After she finished off these grandmasters in one go, she returned to the pagoda in the backyard and sat down. Chu Li appeared in the pagoda. Who are they? Chu Li sat opposite her. Lu Yurong's face was pale. She had cast another secret skill. Even though she had taken spirit medicine, she still could not hide the feeling of weakness. Compared to her usual self, she looked lovely and even more pitiful. She did not have her usual peerless beauty. Red Moon Sect. Lu Yurong shook her head. They are the mortal enemy of the mysterious Lady of the 9 Heavens. Chu Li frowned. Once the celestial descends, dragons and snakes rise from the land. I thought the Red Moon Sect was lost. I didn't expect them to have a successor. Moreover, they are more powerful than the mysterious Lady of the 9 Heavens. Lu Yurong frowned. Fortunately, they were taken care of this time. When Chu Li heard that the future trouble was taken care of, he did not ask any more and changed the topic. King Ping and Consort Ping ascended together. Consort Ping ascended because of the Red Moon Sect. Lu Yurong pursed her red lips and scoffed. I just found out too. She died before she could call for help. Chu Li nodded. Dying was just ascending to the Grandmaster's boundary. It was only a short separation. He did not care much and continued. Once King Ping died, the throne fell to Suan. Didn't Suan not want to be the emperor? We can only force him. Suan is really pitiful. Lu Yurong shook her head. Others only saw the emperor's power, but she knew the emperor's helplessness and hardships. There's no other way. He has to suffer for the sake of the people. Chu Li said, he needs to focus on his cultivation. Second eldest sister and my wife will take care of the affairs of the imperial court. Come and help them. Me? Lu Yurong chuckled. Forget it. She always felt uneasy in front of Shaoqi. Chu Li said, you can continue to be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. Lu Yurong was about to decline, but she swallowed her words. If it was any other position, she would not be interested and would not want to be involved in these matters. However, the Secret Guardians Hall was different. It was a place that she had spent a lot of effort on, so she could not bear to abandon it. Chu Li smiled. The Secret Guardians Hall is like a group of dragons without a leader. It's now just a decoration. The Secret Guardians Hall will only be able to unleash its greatest power under your leadership. In the future, the other countries might even turn pale at the mention of it. All right, I'll take over the Secret Guardians Hall again, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li's smile widened. That's great. Lu Yurong said, have you thought about whether Shao Qi and Shao Shi will offend the courtiers if they get involved in politics? Women's status was still far inferior to men. It was also a taboo for women to get involved in politics. The courtiers would never tolerate it. I can only think of a way to hide it, Chu Li said. No matter how strong he was, he could not change the people's view that women should not be involved in politics. How can it be hidden? Lu Yurong shook her head. A storm is inevitable. Chu Li slowly nodded with a serious expression. Chapter 1899. I have a way to resolve it, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Lu Yurong looked at him with a smile. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. All right, please advise me, Miss Lu. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. Actually, you can think of it too, it's just that you're in the middle of it. Chu Li pondered and shook his head. I don't have the time. Your reputation in the Ji dynasty is unparalleled, not even the emperor. Lu Yurong smiled. Especially this time, you've avoided a war between the two countries. It's a great merit, everyone remembers it. Chu Li sighed. It's good enough that they don't scold me for being a busybody. Lu Yurong smiled. Justice is in the hearts of the people, except for those with ulterior motives. Everyone knows what's good for them. Chu Li nodded. Unfortunately, I'm always busy, and I have to cultivate in isolation. Where would I have the time to care about the matters of the court? It's fine if you don't care, Lu Yurong said. As long as it's in name, the Shao sisters can handle it in secret, one in the open and one in the dark. No one can say anything. Chu Li remained silent. If that was the case, he would inevitably be labeled as a powerful official and would be cursed. No matter if the court did well or not, there would always be people who would curse. Where there were people, there would be conflicts of interest, and once it hindered the interests of some people, he would be cursed. More importantly, after he reached this realm, he had no interest in worldly power, there was no joy in it. If he could control the emperor, why would he care about the emperor's position? However, if he really took charge of the state affairs, people would inevitably wonder if he wanted to be the emperor. Was he going to usurp the throne? By then, he would be stuck with a bunch of troubles that he could not get rid of. Lu Yurong seemed to have seen through his thoughts. She smiled. Don't tell me you still care about your feathers? Chu Li replied, I care about my feathers, and I don't want to get into trouble. Even if people objected to Shao Qi and Shao Shi meddling in the affairs of the court, they would not think of usurping the throne because they were women and could not be the emperor. There had never been a female emperor, and the people would not be convinced. But Chu Li was different. Not only was he a man, but more importantly, he was an enlightened master. There was a high chance he would become the emperor, and even the grandmaster would not object. Lu Yurong smiled. You really don't want to be the emperor? No. Chu Li shook his head. It's not like you don't know the difficulties of being an emperor. That's true. Lu Yurong nodded. Chu Li scoffed. I'm afraid that once Suen becomes the emperor and my wife and second eldest sister take over the government, the other 10 public houses will not behave themselves. I'll think of a way to handle it. Lu Yurong smiled. The Secret Guardians Hall and the High Duke's public house have always been enemies. Chu Li nodded. It was reassuring to leave the matter to Lu Yurong. There's also the matter of the celestial beings, Chu Li said in a low voice. More and more celestial beings have descended. I feel that something is off. Lu Yurong's beautiful face retracted her smile as she frowned. Something's not right. Chu Li said, the first order of business for the Secret Guardians Hall is to investigate the heavenly men and see how many heavenly men there are in the Great Ji dynasty. We'll try our best to monitor every single one of them. Lu Yurong nodded lightly. I'll handle it. Chu Li stood up and said, go to the fairy's capital as soon as possible. Suen will ascend the throne soon. Lu Yurong said, we'll leave in 2 days. Help the High Duke's public house set up a formation. The public house's formation is very good. She did not expect that someone would really dare to break into the Ren public house. There were no signs at all. There would be a next time. The Ren public house needed a formation. Chu Li nodded without hesitation. He took out 8 pieces of jade talismans. They were all the size of a baby's palm and threw them out. The jade talismans turned into rays of white light and shot in all directions. After a while, fog began to gather around the Ren public house like clouds and mist. The people of the Ren public house did not care at first. They thought that it was a sudden change in the weather. Later, the fog became thicker and they could not see beyond 5 steps. They then realized that something was wrong and shouted. However, their shouts could not travel beyond 5 steps. They immediately fell into panic. Chu Li smiled as he looked down at the people. After a quarter of an hour, the fog dissipated and everything returned to normal. Chu Li took out a palm-sized jasper talisman from his inner pocket. This is the core of the formation. As long as you channel it, you'll be able to activate the formation. This technique can cause spiritual energy to be disrupted so that no spiritual energy can be used. Lu Yurong smiled and took it. Thank you very much. Chu Li glanced at her. Lu Yurong smiled. Then I won't stand on ceremony. I can only leave with peace of mind with the formation. Chu Li nodded. Go to the fairy's capital as soon as possible. I'm leaving. He disappeared in a flash after saying that. In the evening, the sun was setting. Goddess Attraction Mountain was bathed in the light of the setting sun, as if it was painted with a layer of red. He appeared in Zhou Dunli's basilica, and sat on the cattail hassock in front of Zhou Dunli. Beside him was his senior, Dong Jianxin. Dong Jianxin was dressed in a blue robe. He had a strong aura. He had not seen him for a while and his cultivation level had increased greatly. It could be said that he had advanced by leaps and bounds. He knew that this was the result of his master's meticulous training. Master! Chu Li broke the silence of the basilica. There are more and more celestials descending. This is not a good sign. Master, I want to know, will there be more celestials descending? Zhou Dunli opened his eyes. His expression was inexplicably complicated. He sighed and shook his head. Chu Li knew what he meant when he saw his expression. Heaven's will could not be disobeyed. If that was the case, then it was not good news. That should mean that the celestials would continue to descend. Chu Li frowned. The celestials have already caused chaos in the world. If more of them descend, it will be even more chaotic. The celestials are now starting to attack each other. The mortals will suffer. If this continues, it will really become a chaotic world. Zhou Dunli sighed. You better not interfere in this matter. Don't go against the grandmasters. Chu Li said, I can't just watch them destroy this world, can I? It can't be destroyed. Zhou Dunli shook his head. This world is more resistant to chaos than you think. Don't worry. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Master, has something like this happened before? Joe Dunley hesitated and slowly said, "How do you think the antique studies of the Grandmasters were passed down? Today, the original spirit-beast martial arts of the various sects had declined. Most of the remaining martial arts were Grandmasters' martial art. For example, the Holy Church of Light's Great Light Scripture, the Tempest Temple's Dharma and martial arts, the Heavenly Demon Scripture, and other martial arts were almost all passed down from the Grandmasters." Chu Li frowned. He had read many ancient books, but there were no records of the Celestials descending. This was too strange. No matter how powerful they were, it was impossible to control everyone's pen and all the books in the world. Joe Dunley shook his head. "You can't fight against the Grandmasters anymore. Otherwise, they will destroy you regardless of anything." Chu Li said, "I can't let these Celestials harm the people." "The Grandmasters have accepted your suggestion," Joe Dunley said calmly. "Soon, there will be a martial arts competition to fight for the title of the world's #1 master." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Chapter 1900. Joe Dunley said, "The final winner will challenge you. If you win, you'll be the world's #1. If you lose, you'll still be the world's #1. Chu Li said, "I don't want to participate in this. The world's #1 did not have any practical use. It was just a title and a target. Everyone wanted to use his name to shock the world, so there was an endless stream of challengers. If it was not for the High Duke's public house and Goddess Attraction Mountain, he would have been annoyed to death. With his current reputation, even if he was not the world's #1, it was enough to deter others. That's not up to you." Joe Dunley shook his head. "In my opinion, it's better to participate. If you can really become invincible, then you'll be able to intimidate everyone and save yourself a lot of trouble." "How many years is the martial arts competition held?" Chu Li asked. 2 years, Joe Dunley said. Chu Li nodded. Joe Dunley said, "The world's #1 will have a great reward. For this reward, you should fight for it." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Joe Dunley smiled. "It's definitely something you can't refuse. It's a good thing in the Outland and even more precious in this world." "All right." Chu Li nodded. Joe Dunley said, "Now that you're the world's #1, you only need to participate in the last round. It's a preferential treatment." Chu Li nodded. He was also curious about what reward the Outland would give and whether he would be tempted. Joe Dunley said, "According to the information I received, it might be a treasured clothing." Chu Li was excited. Although his floating silkworm treasured clothing was useless to him, he could let Shao Qi wear it. Shao Shi, Lu Yurong, and Pang Shiji all needed treasured clothing. It was a life-saving item that could only be found. "Are you tempted?" Joe Dunley smiled. Chu Li said, "If it's really a treasured clothing, then I'll have to fight for it." Joe Dunley smiled. "The elders of the Outland are very experienced and ruthless. They won't allow you to refuse." Chu Li nodded. He turned to look at senior brother Dong Jianxin. Dong Jianxin did not open his eyes and did not wake up. Seeing the heart is the key. Once you pass this stage, you'll be able to improve greatly and become an enlightened master. Joe Dunley said. Chu Li said, "Senior brother, you've worked too hard. How can it not be hard to become an Empyrean god?" Joe Dunley shook his head. "He doesn't work hard enough usually." The so-called hard work was not only about burying one's head in cultivation, but also exhausting one's mental energy. What Dong Jian had put into his heart was hard work, and it was only because he was stingy with his mental energy that it was so difficult. Otherwise, the disciples of Immortal Attraction Mountain would not have fallen behind others, and it would have been easy for them to take over the position of heavenly deity. Chu Li smiled. "I'll help from the side." "No need." Joe Dunley shook his head. "He can only rely on himself. No one else can help him. I can only watch from the side." "Senior brother, this is? I'm trapped in an illusion and need to come out on my own." Chu Li fist saluted and bade farewell. The backyard of the imperial residence of King An was brightly lit as if it was daytime. Chu Li sat in the middle with Lu Yurong, Shao Qi, and Shao Shi sitting beside him. The four of them were dressed in snow-white robes. Only Suru was dressed in an apricot yellow gown. Each of their beautiful faces made the fresh flowers in the backyard pale in comparison. So far there are a total of 22 celestials in Fairy's capital. Lu Yurong put down her teacup and said softly, "Fortunately, they're relatively peaceful, but it's hard to say what they'll do next." Chu Li nodded. Shao Shi asked, "There's no way to drive these celestials away, right?" "It'll be difficult." Lu Yurong shook her head. "They're all hiding their identities, and we can't drive them away for no reason. We can't just drive them away just because they're celestials, or else we'll incur the wrath of the celestials." Shao Qi asked, "Can't we do it under other names?" "They're all connected to each other," Lu Yurong said. "If we drive them away, they'll quickly realize it. Moreover, these celestials' martial arts aren't bad, unless Chu Li does it himself." Chu Li was deep in thought. It was not appropriate for him to go against the wind and deal with the celestials now. He needed a sufficient reason and excuse to do it, or else the Grandmasters would wholeheartedly kill him, and Shao Qi and the others would be the unlucky ones. Shao Shi suggested, "How about we put on a show and trap these celestials to give Chu Li an excuse to do it?" "That's a good idea." Lu Yurong smiled sweetly. "I'll think of a way to provoke 2 celestials and have them barge into the secret guardian's hall or the imperial residence. Then, I'll execute a chain of punishments to catch these celestials in one fell swoop." Celestials were proud and arrogant. Even with an enlightened master like Chu Li suppressing them and killing them easily, they still could not get rid of their deep-rooted arrogance. They viewed the people of this world as mere mortals, an existence that was inferior to them. That was why they could not stand being offended by mortals. It was too easy to provoke them, and these celestials treated the nobles as nothing, thinking that they were just a bunch of trash that was not worth mentioning. It was easy to take advantage of this weakness and set up a trap to trap them. Shao Qi said, "Don't overdo it, it's best if no one dies." "It won't work if no one dies." Shao Shi shook her head. "How can an undead be worth Chu Li's effort?" "Then I'll die." Lu Yurong smiled. "I'm the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. How can Chu Li not be angry if I'm killed by them?" "That's not bad." Shao Shi chuckled. "You're now Chu Li's woman in name. It would be strange if Chu Li doesn't go crazy. Even if he does, you can't blame him." Shao Qi frowned. They might not fall for it. Chu Li's reputation for killing was extremely strong. He had killed so many celestials, and with his title as the world's #1 master, it had become a great deterrent. The fact that the celestials did not cause trouble in the fairy's capital and did not act recklessly was also because of Chu Li's deterrent power. The celestials from other places would not be so peaceful. Outsiders knew Lu Yurong's identity. The celestials would not know, but they might not dare to kill her. Lu Yurong said, "If they dare to break into the secret guardian's hall, it's not up to them anymore." Shao Qi nodded. She understood what Lu Yurong was thinking. Shao Shi chuckled. "Lu Yurong, you're really bad." "Same here." Lu Yurong chuckled. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. They were all intelligent people, and when they discussed together, they came up with ideas that were even scarier. "Leave it to me," Lu Yurong said. Chu Li nodded. With the 3 of them around, the imperial court did not have to worry about him. The key was still to cultivate in isolation. On the evening of the 2nd day, the whole city was in an uproar. The secret guardian's hall was wiped out by 4 celestials, and the secret guardians suffered heavy casualties. Even the commander of the secret guardian's hall, the lady of the Run public house, Lu Yurong, was killed by the celestials. This move shocked the entire fairy's capital, and even the whole Ji dynasty. Everyone was waiting to see if Chu Li would make a move. Lu Yurong was one of Chu Li's women, and she was married to him legally, so Chu Li would not let it go. On the third night the result was out. Chu Li killed the 4 Celestials in anger, and then the entire fairies' capital began to ban Celestials from entering. Celestials despised the country's laws and ignored secular morality. They were really black sheep, and the fairies' capital could not tolerate the existence of these Celestials. Chapter 1901. Everyone in Fairies' capital applauded and praised Chu Li incessantly. He's head chief Chu indeed. He should have taught these Celestials a lesson long ago. Chief Chu is so domineering. He's a great honor to the people of the Fairies' capital. Those who were not of the same race were bound to have different intentions. Although the Celestials did not do anything to anger the heavens and the people after they descended, their arrogance caused dissatisfaction in their every move. As time passed, the dissatisfaction grew. In the beginning, the Celestials would hide their identity. Later on, when they saw that the other Celestials did not hide their identity and acted openly, they decided to do so. The identity of a Celestial could save them a lot of unnecessary trouble. Everything had its pros and cons. As such, it was inevitable that it would cause dissatisfaction. Chu Li's action was in line with the times and won the hearts of the people. 3 days later, Suan ascended the throne and became the new emperor of the Ji dynasty. He was given the title of Enlightened Master. The night was hazy and the backyard was brightly lit. Chu Li, Xiao Shi, Shao Qi, and Lu Yurong sat in the pagoda. Opposite them was Suan Hui Qing had just left. Suan was still in his red robe. Under the light, his bald head shone brightly. Chu Li smiled. We've finally come this far. Back then, he had put in a lot of effort and laid out a plan. He did not expect it to be so easy after he became an enlightened master. Many of the plans could not be put to use. He planned to hand over the previous preparations to Xiao Shi and let her manage it. Xiao Shi was very talented in the court. She was even better than Shao Qi, who had been managing the High Duke's public house. No matter how strong Chu Li's martial arts was, he was only one person. The Ji dynasty was a vast land. No matter how strong his martial arts was, he could not rule the world by himself. Even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, he could not do anything. He needed the chancellors and officials to rule. Suan bowed with pressed palms. He knew that Chu Li had put in a lot of effort for him to become the emperor. Otherwise, he would not have become the emperor. No matter what, after becoming an enlightened master, his vision had broadened and he had a new understanding of the 10 lifetimes of Buddhahood. It was very beneficial for his cultivation. Chu Li waved his hand. It won't be easy from now on. I'm going to go into isolated cultivation, so you'll have to handle the court affairs yourselves. Those old foxes in the court aren't easy to deal with. Therefore, these officials could not be easily killed. Without sufficient evidence, they could not be punished. Otherwise, if they incurred the wrath of the masses, the court officials would be furious and stop the court. The ones who would suffer would be the common people. There might be many places suffering from disasters and waiting for relief. Lu Yurong said, "Don't worry, they won't be able to escape our grasp." She was very clear about the weaknesses of these officials. She was not afraid that they would be dishonest if she targeted their weaknesses. The 3 of them formed a small conference hall. Many of the ministers could not accept that the affairs of the country were in the hands of women, but as long as they could endure the early stages, they would slowly get used to it. This was the nature of humans. Chu Li nodded slowly. Suan said, "Chief Chu, don't worry. I won't go into seclusion immediately." Chu Li smiled. No matter what, Suan was the most important person, and also the chancellor's cover. As long as Suan attended the court every day, even if the memorials were read by Xiao Shi and the other 2 ladies, the chancellors would not be able to say anything. Xiao Shi was now the Empress Dowager, so she could not let the emperor see the Empress Dowager. It was against the morals of a son. Xiao Shi said, Suan just needs to take some time out to attend the court every day. Don't delay your cultivation. The 10 lifetimes of Buddhahood technique would allow him to become a Buddha. Moreover, Suan's Buddhist nature was very good. She could not let the throne delay his cultivation and prevent him from becoming a Buddha. If he really could not become a Buddha because of this, it would be a sin. Chu Li nodded lightly. That's good too. Suan bowed with pressed palms and nodded. Lu Yurong said, the current situation in the court is that the 4 powerful chancellors are colluding with each other. It seems like they are doing the right thing, but there are actually 2 families that have secretly formed an alliance. They control more than half of the matters in the court. We need to give them a warning or even split them up. Then we'll replace both of them. Xiao Shi frowned. Suan is an arhat. It's inevitable that the chancellors will feel that he is merciful and forgiving. They will unknowingly indulge themselves and act presumptuously. They need to understand that Suan is an arhat, but he is a strict person. He will not tolerate others breaking the law. That's right. Lu Yurong nodded. Shao Qi nodded lightly. Should we kill them or demote them? Lu Yurong said, in my opinion, we should demote them. We can't kill them indiscriminately. The disciples of these 2 chancellors are all over the court. If we kill them, it will affect many people, and the court will be in turmoil. As the saying goes, a new emperor brings his own ministers. If we demote them, the people will have nothing to say. They might even think that it's only natural. If we don't demote them, how can we make room for our own confidants? Then we'll demote them, Shao Qi said. Second eldest sister, it's best not to involve too many people. Of course, Shao Shi said. Now that the external situation was unfavorable and chaos was gradually emerging, the court needed to be stabilized. A sudden purge would cause unrest in the court, which would not be beneficial to the stability of the Ji dynasty. As the Ji dynasty's Empress Dowager, she would naturally not act recklessly. Chu Li smiled. With the 3 of them discussing, there was really nothing that could be difficult. One was calm, one was intelligent, and one was quick-witted. With them helping each other, he believed that the Ji dynasty's court would be peaceful and he would not have to worry too much. Under the morning sun, the floating mountain seemed to be shrouded in golden light. Thousands of golden rays shone on the mountain, and the entire floating mountain was dazzling. Chu Li appeared outside the floating mountain's heaven's punishment hall. He closed-fist saluted. Subordinate Bailey Na greets the hall leader. Come in. Elder Fong's lazy voice was heard. Chu Li strode into the heaven's punishment hall. When he lifted the curtain, he saw the spirit tiger's corpse. The spirit ocean was still oppressive. He took a deep breath and came to the center of the hall, facing Elder Fong, who was sitting in the armchair. Elder Fong was dressed in green and looked like a spring flower. She elegantly put down her scroll and looked at Chu Li. What took you so long? Chu Li replied, I met 2 celestials and got into a fight. I was slightly injured. You're always so lucky. Elder Fong scoffed. Did you get anything else? I even got a stalk of Ming grass. Chu Li took out a small box from his sleeve and presented it with both hands. This was Senior Guo's order. He wanted a stalk of Ming grass. Guo Zhongjing. Elder Fong frowned. Chu Li nodded. Elder Guo promised to exchange this stalk of Ming grass for the unique king technique. The unique king technique. Elder Fong shook her head helplessly. She had asked for it before but failed. She did not expect Guo Zhongjing to be so generous. It was obvious that the Ming grass was extremely difficult to obtain. Where did you get it? Elder Fong asked. Chu Li smiled. I wanted to look for it at 100,000 Hills, but I didn't expect to stumble upon it. I didn't go to 100,000 Hills. That's good. Elder Fong nodded. She also realized that Chu Li was extremely lucky. Every time he was in danger, he would be able to turn misfortune into fortune. To others, he was just unlucky. Otherwise, he would not have encountered so many dangers. However, from another perspective, he was also lucky. Every time he could escape danger, he would improve. Chu Li smiled. I wonder if Senior Guo will keep his promise. He won't. You can get the unique king technique. Elder Fong smiled. Chu Li smiled. Hall leader, I heard that we have the hidden treasure of longevity? Chapter 1902. I want to enter the longevity treasury, Chu Li said. Elder Fong was surprised. You can hear the longevity treasury and you still want to enter? Chu Li asked. Has the temple leader entered before? Of course, Elder Fong nodded. I was lucky enough to enter once. Chu Li smiled. Is the cosmic jade stamp inside? The cosmic jade stamp. Elder Fong frowned and thought for a while before shaking her head. There are too many treasures in the treasury, I really don't remember. The cosmic jade stamp is not a martial art, right? What do you want it for? Chu Li said, I once received an inheritance, it's the heavenly heart technique. Elder Fong shook her head and laughed. You have quite a lot of fortuitous encounters. Chu Li laughed. Yes, my luck has always been good, or else I wouldn't have met the bishop and entered the church. That's true, Elder Fong nodded. The heavenly heart technique. It seems to be an inheritance from the prophecy pavilion, right? Yes. Chu Li said, Unfortunately, I haven't cultivated it properly and gained nothing. I can't reach the level of the prophecy pavilion, I'm really not satisfied. If I can get the cosmic jade stamp, I heard it can improve the heavenly heart technique. The cosmic jade stamp and the heavenly heart technique are not on the same level. Elder Fong shook her head and laughed, but it's useless for you to get the cosmic jade stamp. It seems to be only the lower part, the upper part might be in the stargazing pavilion, we can't afford to offend them. Chu Li was surprised. Is the stargazing pavilion that powerful? The strength of the stargazing pavilion is not in their martial arts, but in their foresight. They can predict good or bad luck, and they can plot against people without leaving a trace. Elder Fong shook her head. We can't afford to offend them. Chu Li said, The lower part is enough. I don't want to learn the cosmic jade stamp. I only want to use it to understand the heavenly heart technique and improve it. It's enough if I can cultivate it. That's true, Elder Fong nodded slowly. Chu Li said, If I offer the heavenly heart technique I got to the temple, can I enter the longevity treasury? In his opinion, the heavenly heart art was very simple. Moreover, the pavilion of heavenly secrets posed no threat to him. They could not be counted on him, so he could offer up the first half of the heavenly heart art. If he could obtain the heavenly star jade stamp, that would be for the best. He urgently needed to cultivate the revolving wheel pagoda and the heavenly star void technique in seclusion. However, no matter how he thought about it, the condensation of the revolving wheel pagoda was not something that could be achieved in 2 or 3 days. On the other hand, the heavenly star void technique could be improved through epiphany. As long as he obtained the heavenly star jade stamp, he believed that his heavenly star void technique would instantly improve. After the heavenly star void technique was upgraded, it would be greatly beneficial to the forging of the wheel pagoda. It could increase the forging speed, and it might even be able to deduce the profoundness of the patterns on the heart of Azura and find the Azura's weakness. If the heavenly star insight technique was merely a grandmaster's martial art, he would not have such confidence. Otherwise, the creator of the heavenly star insight technique would have found the Azura's weakness. It was said that the heavenly star insight technique was not a grandmaster's martial art, which was why he had a sliver of hope. Heavenly heart technique. Elder Fong frowned and thought about it. There did not seem to be such a martial art in the church. The heavenly heart technique came from the stargazing pavilion and was a branch of the stargazing pavilion. Although its power was not as powerful as the stargazing technique, it should not be underestimated. The Divine Mystery Pavilion's momentum in the past 100 years was extremely strong, and there were signs of it becoming one of the 8 major sects in the Fu dynasty. This was all due to the power of the Heavenly Heart technique. Chu Li said, however, "It seems that I did not obtain the complete Heavenly Heart technique. I only obtained half of it." "That's a little lacking," Elder Fong said disappointedly. "I'll go and ask the bishop." Chu Li Fist saluted. "I'll bring the Yin Ming grass to Senior Guo," Elder Fong said. Chu Li nodded and Fist saluted gratefully. Elder Fong left gracefully while Chu Li returned to his courtyard. The courtyard was clean and tidy. It was obvious that someone had cleaned it. It must be Lu Jun. He smiled and sat in the pavilion in the courtyard. He thought about whether he could enter the longevity treasure. If he could really enter, it would be a relief. He did not need to make any great contributions. It was a pity that he could not hand over the entire Heavenly Heart technique. Otherwise, it would arouse Song Jifan's suspicion. Song Jifan was not a fool. He was smarter than most people. The Heavenly Heart technique was the secret of the Prophecy Pavilion. Once the complete heart technique was leaked, it would arouse the Prophecy Pavilion's senses. They would track him down. How could he escape? Bailey Na had long fallen into the hands of the Prophecy Pavilion. The first half of the Heavenly Heart technique would not arouse the Prophecy Pavilion's senses. After all, the most powerful part of the Heavenly Heart technique was the later part. The earlier part was just the foundation. Its power was limited. It was not a threat to the Prophecy Pavilion. Chu Li brewed his own tea. After the tea was boiled, he poured it and tasted it gently. He looked relaxed and at ease. He actually sensed that someone was spying on him. It was the most powerful celestial being in the church, Song Sizu. He pretended not to know and sipped his tea leisurely. His thoughts turned. The news of the martial arts world hegemony had spread in the martial arts world. Almost everyone knew about it. The martial arts world hegemony was hosted by the major sects of each country. The Tempest Temple of the Ji dynasty, the Goddess Attraction Mountain of the Fu dynasty, the Reincarnation Temple of the Qiu dynasty, and the Black Tortoise Mountain of the Zheng dynasty had not been released. The specific rules had not been released yet. They were still being discussed. However, many martial arts masters could not wait any longer. They rubbed their palms together and wanted to fight for a good reputation. As long as they could get a high ranking in the martial arts world hegemony, they would be famous all over the world. They would become influential figures. None of the martial arts masters could resist this temptation. There was no first place in literature or second place in martial art. None of the martial arts masters would admit defeat. Bailey Na. Elder Fong's voice suddenly came from outside. Chu Li quickly opened the door. He turned sideways and invited Elder Fong in to sit in the gazebo. Elder Fong took out a thin book from her sleeve and passed it to Chu Li. "This is the unique Heavenly King technique." Chu Li was overjoyed. He closed fist saluted. "Thank you, temple leader." "There's no need to thank me." Elder Fong waved her hand. Chu Li showed a grateful expression. Elder Fong personally gave Guo Zhongjing the cloudy grass to prevent Guo Zhongjing from going back on his word. As an ordinary follower, Chu Li could not do anything about it. However, Elder Fong was different. After all, she was the temple leader. Elder Fong said, "The bishop has agreed. If you can give us the first half of the Heavenly Heart technique, you can enter the longevity treasure to have a look. You can only look at the Heavenly Astra Jade stamp and not take it away. Even if you give us the entire Heavenly Heart technique, you can't exchange for the Heavenly Astra Jade stamp." Chu Li was overjoyed. He closed fist saluted. "Thank you, temple leader." "Thank you, bishop." Elder Fong waved her hand. If it wasn't for Guo Zhongjing's plea, the bishop might not have agreed. After all, the longevity treasure is unusual. Chu Li frowned. "Senior Guo?" Elder Fong said, "Maybe he's grateful that you found the cloudy grass." That's why he made an exception and said a few good words. It's a small favor. Chu Li smiled. Then I have to thank Senior Gua. Although it's a small favor, he still helped you, Elder Fong said. Chu Li slowly said, yes. Based on his understanding of Guo Zhongjing, it was impossible for him to help him. Was the cloudy grass that important to him? It seemed that once Guo Zhongjing broke through a level, his strength would increase tremendously. He had to be careful. Let's go tomorrow. Elder Fong stood up. Chu Li sent her out and returned to the courtyard excitedly. Chapter 1903. The night was like water. He sat in his hut and opened the booklet of the Ultimate King of the Heavenly King and began to read its heart technique. The Ultimate King of the Heavenly King was able to support the Heavenly King palm and form a temple. It was naturally a powerful martial art. Even if it was not as good as the ageless longevity technique, it would not be able to support a temple. After reading it carefully, he closed the book and pondered. From the supreme technique of the Heavenly King, he saw a trace of the supreme Vajra scripture. Although it was not as exquisite as the supreme Vajra scripture, it was simpler and more direct. Although it was not as powerful as the supreme Vajra palm, it required less inner energy. Every palm of the supreme diamond scripture required all his strength. If he did not have the life and death scripture, he could only use one palm. With the Ultimate King of the Heavenly King, the Heavenly King palm did not require much inner energy. This was also the greatest advantage of the Ultimate King of the Heavenly King. Cultivating the Heavenly King palm alone required all his inner energy to unleash its full power. With the Ultimate King of the Heavenly King, there was no need to do so. The power of the Ultimate King of the Heavenly King was obvious, but it was useless to Chu Li. However, there was a great advantage that he could pass it on to Pang Shiji. The Supreme Diamond Scripture was not suitable to be passed on to others. Even his own disciple, the Ultimate King of the Heavenly King, could be passed on to Pang Shiji. Although Pang Shiji was enlightened in swordsmanship, he was not a genius. He did not improve as fast as Chu Li. Now that his inner energy was profound, he could best use his fists and palms. The cloud-slashing palm could do it, and so could the Heavenly King palm. The next morning, after he had breakfast, Zhu Jun ran over. Elder Bai, why did you come back? Zhu Jun angrily sat at the stone table in the gazebo and poured himself a cup of tea. He did not care that the tea was hot and drank it in one gulp. Chu Li smiled and sat down. Why aren't you coming back? You shouldn't have come back. Zhu Jun scoffed. Would I still be alive if I came back? Chu Li said. After a while, their anger should have subsided. It's not a big conflict. You underestimate their memory. Zhu Jun scoffed. You shouldn't have come back anyway. Chu Li nodded. That's true. The conflict between everyone and the Celestials has been intense recently, right? With the sect master personally coming out to suppress them, everyone has resigned themselves to fate. Zhu Jun shook his head and sighed, revealing an indignant expression. I really don't understand why sect master is protecting them and not helping our own people. Maybe it's because we're on the same side, Chu Li said. Zhu Jun nodded. Sect leader also said that, but this is too aggrieving. Now that I've returned, I'll be leaving soon. Chu Li said, I still have things to settle outside. Brother Zhu, do you want to come with me? Forget it, I still need to cultivate in peace. Zhu Jun shook his head. In the end, their martial arts are still not good enough. If our martial arts surpass them, let's see if they can still be so arrogant. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. At this moment there was a knock on the door. Chu Li went forward and opened the door. A lady in green stood outside the door. She smiled sweetly. Brother Bai Li, come with me. Thank you. Chu Li fist saluted. Zhu Jun hid in the pagoda and did not come out. It seemed that he was afraid of the lady in green beside Elder Fong. Chu Li did not need to turn his head. The omniscient mirror had already seen it clearly. He could see that Zhu Jun was uncomfortable. He did not say anything more and went straight out of the courtyard with the lady in green. Soon, they arrived in front of a forest. The lady in green smiled sweetly. "It's inside. You can go in by yourself." Chu Li fist saluted and walked in without saying much. The lady in green looked at his back and smiled. She turned around and left. It was a mixed forest. It was very inconspicuous. Every tree was so tall that almost all the light in the forest was blocked. There was no road. It seemed that no one had set foot here. However, Chu Li could keenly sense a trace. He followed the trace forward and arrived in front of a giant tree. This giant tree had been struck by lightning. It seemed to be withered, but there were still a few sprouts growing. The withered tree had regained its spring. He stood in front of the giant tree and fist saluted. "I'm Bai Li Na." "You're Bai Li Na?" An old man suddenly floated down from the giant tree. His bald head was shiny and his eyes were as bright as his bald head. Chu Li did not notice it earlier. This giant tree obviously contained a very mysterious formation. He was shocked and became more careful. "Yes," Chu Li said in a deep voice, "Greetings, Senior. I've been ordered to enter the longevity treasure to take a look." Got it." The old man looked normal and had a medium build. He would not attract any attention in a crowd. He waved his hand and said coldly, "Follow me." After he said that, he leaped up to the top of the tree. Chu Li followed closely behind him and leaped up. The old man continued to leap up. With another leap, he leaped from the top of the tree into the void and disappeared. Chu Li did not hesitate and leaped up. His eyes suddenly opened up. He had already stepped into a giant palace. The palace was filled with jewels. The chairs and tables were filled with all kinds of treasures. Even the patterns on the palace's windows and walls were treasures. Chu Li squinted his eyes. Everything in front of him was not an illusion. The longevity treasure was obviously in the air and hidden in a formation. No one could find it. If the old man did not appear in front of him, Chu Li would not have sensed the existence of this palace. "You can choose whatever you want," the old man said calmly, and sat on the armchair in the middle of the palace. He closed his eyes lazily and then snorted as if he had fallen asleep. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. The old man's skill was not very profound. He was only at the standard of a grandmaster. He was already a rare master in the outside world, but it did not seem to be enough to guard the longevity treasure. It seemed like the longevity church was very confident about the longevity treasure's formation and was not afraid of people breaking in. Chu Li did not disturb him anymore. He began to search along the left side of the palace. He quickly looked around but did not find the cosmic jade metal. Instead, he found a Buddhist pagoda. This small pagoda looked exquisite, yet it was simple and unadorned. It exuded a peaceful aura, causing one's mind to involuntarily calm down. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. This was a rare Buddhist treasure. He did not know how it was related to the Chakram pagoda that he was condensing. If he could get his hands on this, he could probably shorten the time needed to condense the Chakram pagoda. The longevity church really had many good things. The longevity church had made him salivate the last time. It was the same this time. He hoped to enter the longevity church again and obtain a few other treasures, such as the bloodstone that made the little beast restless and the heart protection badge that tempted him. Unfortunately, it was difficult to find an opportunity, and he needed to contribute to the longevity church to enter. He focused on the Buddhist pagoda and wanted to explore it, but realized that an invisible force was blocking him. The old man opened his eyes and said, "You can only see but not explore. Whatever treasure you find is your luck. You can't blame anyone else." Chu Li nodded. It could actually block his omniscient mirror's observation. The formation in this palace was indeed mysterious. All the treasures in front of him were protected. He could only see them with his eyes and touch them with his hands. He could not explore them with his spirit. Chapter 1904. Chuli continued to search, but he could not find the star jade stamp. He remembered the star jade stamp's appearance very clearly. It was not here. He looked up at the elder and closed fist saluted. "May I ask if this is all the hidden treasures?" "Of course." The elder opened his eyes and said, "Why, do you think it's not enough?" Without waiting for Chuli to speak, he pointed his finger at the surroundings and scoffed. "Everything here is a priceless treasure. Any one of them can set off a bloodbath. How can you not be interested in them, kid?" Chuli said, "I'm looking for the star jade stamp." "Star jade stamp?" The elder frowned. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" He stood up and went to a cupboard. He pulled open a drawer and took out a palm-sized jade pendant. He passed it to Chuli. "For you." Chuli looked at the jade pendant in confusion. It was different from the star jade stamp he had seen. It was obviously a normal jade pendant. "Why, you don't want it?" the elder said impatiently. "This is the star jade stamp. Don't you know?" Chuli shook his head. "It can't be? It can't be wrong." The elder said, "Treasures hide themselves. You look at it, but it contains the mystery of the star jade stamp. Do you want to take it?" Chuli frowned and stared at him for a while before reaching out to take it. The elder scoffed. "All the treasures here are priceless. This is the only one that's not even worth a fart." Chuli shook his head. "To those who want it, it's priceless too. Who's going to learn the Bullsh**T stargazing technique?" The elder curled his lips and said impatiently. "It's all life-shortening stuff. Those who learn it won't have a good ending." Chuli smiled and did not say anything. The elder seemed to have noticed the disapproval in Chuli's expression. He scoffed. "Why, you're not convinced?" Chuli said, "The disciples of Stargazing Pavilion have a good ending." "Then which disciple of Stargazing Pavilion have a long life?" The elder said impatiently. "All of them have a short life. This is the consequence of cultivating the stargazing technique." Chuli was deep in thought. Although the disciples of the Stargazing Pavilion did not die accidentally, their lifespans were usually not long. They would die before they were 200 years old, which was considered to be short-lived. However, there was an advantage to being a disciple of the Stargazing Pavilion. As long as they reached the Grand Master's boundary, they could ascend to the Grand Master's boundary after their death. Just like the Holy Church of Light, they were able to ascend to the Outland before the arrival of the Celestials. Therefore, the disciples of the Stargazing Pavilion did not take the stargazing technique's shortcomings too seriously. "Anyway, if you're smart, don't practice it. You're already so old. You won't have many years to live if you practice the stargazing art." The elder scoffed. "Although the heaven beyond heaven is not bad, the world is different now. It's better not to go there." Chuli nodded and gave a fist salute in thanks. He slowly held the jade pendant, but a strong sense of danger welled up in him. This feeling made him hesitate for a long time. He felt that it was better to stay away from it. The old man saw him staring at the jade pendant hesitantly and scoffed. "You can only look at it, you can't take it out." Chuli nodded. The old man said, "What, you still think it's fake?" Chuli muttered, "Has anyone touched this jade pendant?" "No." The old man shook his head and scoffed. "No one can be interested in this thing. Ever since we entered Tibet, you're the first." Chuli slowly nodded. "What are you waiting for?" The old man was getting more curious about Chuli's actions. Chuli shook his head. "I don't think it's right. It doesn't seem like the real star jade medallion." "Nonsense." The old man glared at him and snatched the jade pendant. "I can't be wrong." As he spoke, he wiped the jade pendant with his hand. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. The jade pendant suddenly changed color from a dull white to a dark blue. It was as if a jade pendant was smeared on it. "See? How can this be fake?" Chuli raised his eyebrows. It really looked like the star jade medallion. However, it gave him a strong sense of danger. He did not dare to casually look into it. He trusted his intuition. The old man passed it to him. There's no problem now, right? Chuli smiled. Forget it, I'll look at something else. All right. The old man scoffed. But you can only look at it, you can't take it away. This is what the bishop instructed. Yes. Chuli nodded. His gaze was still on the pagoda. He began to visualize the appearance of the pagoda in his mind so that every detail would appear clearly in his mind. Even if he could not get its spirit, he could at least visualize its form. Unfortunately, the pagoda seemed to have a layer of invisible strange energy that prevented him from visualizing it clearly. Chuli felt that it was more mysterious. Just like the wheel pagoda, this invisible force was what he was most interested in. Unfortunately, he still could not get it after trying for a long time. It's about time, right? The old man opened his eyes and said, You've stayed long enough. It's time to leave. Chuli slowly nodded and gently put the pagoda down. The old man said, This is the Merit Pagoda. It's a real wonder. You can't get it. Chuli asked, What's the use of this pagoda? I don't know. The old man shook his head. I only know that it's not from this world. It's said to be from the higher heaven realm. It's not the Grand Master? Chuli looked interested. The old man scoffed, It's not. Chuli sighed. It's such a waste to hide this pagoda here. It should be allowed to see the light of day and put to good use. Impossible. The old man shook his head. This pagoda is one of the most precious treasures in the secret treasure. There's almost no chance for it to see the light of day again. You don't have to look at it, it's useless. Chuli nodded. Let's go. The old man gestured for Chuli to leave. Chuli looked at the dark blue jade pendant on the table. The jade pendant still gave him a strong sense of danger. It was unwise to get close to it. However, he was unwilling to come in and leave with nothing. The old man smiled faintly. Why? You still want to see the cosmic jade medallion? Chuli sighed. I think the cosmic jade medallion is fake. Nonsense. The old man shook his head. Chuli said, Why don't we try throwing it? If it breaks, it's fake. If it doesn't break, it's real. More nonsense. The old man scoffed. Who said the cosmic jade medallion won't break? Chuli smiled. I heard it's made of a strange material from the Grandmaster. It won't break. Never heard of it. The old man shook his head. Chuli said, Let's give it a try. What if it breaks? The old man said impatiently, Hurry up and leave. It's fine if you don't want to see it. Chuli thought about it and shook his head. Forget it. Since it's fake, there's no point in looking at it. I'll leave now. His intuition and the heavenly star void insight technique were warning him of danger. Even if his heart was itching, he would not take this strange risk. Even if he had the life and death scripture, he did not want to test where this sense of danger came from. Then let's go. The old man stood up and walked out. Before Chuli left, he took another deep look at the cosmic jade medallion and turned to follow the old man. When they were about to reach the gate of the palace, the old man suddenly said, Do you think the jade pendant is dangerous? Chuli nodded. Chapter 1905. Chuli was startled and fell into deep thought. Could it be that he felt threatened because of this? The heavenly star void insight technique circulated rapidly. He stared at the elder for a moment, then at the dark blue jade pendant. Finally, he shook his head slowly. Forget it. I don't think this is the heavenly star jade pendant I want to see. Are you really willing? The elder sneered. I dare say that no one can resist the temptation. You'll have to see it eventually. Why make things difficult for yourself? Chuli said, Forget it. Goodbye. All right, let's go. The elder nodded. This might be your only chance to enter this place. I don't know how lucky you'll be the next time. Chuli smiled. It's actually not that difficult. You don't know how lucky you are. The elder sneered. I don't mind telling you that the number of our disciples who have entered the longevity treasure can be counted on one hand. As for those who have entered twice, there are less than 3. What makes you think you're stronger than them? Haven't Hall Leader Fan been here twice? Chuli asked. No. The elder shook his head. She's only been here once. She was lucky enough to obtain a treasure that could increase her cultivation level. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to become a hall leader. Chuli nodded. I think I can still enter. We'll meet again. Alright, I'll have to see. The elder sneered. Chuli fist saluted and walked out. The more the elder forced him to look at the heavenly star jade pendant, the more he felt that it was strange. It was a trap. It was better not to look at it. Since it was a trap, it must be a trap that could deal with him. No matter how brave he would not be fooled. He was fearless. The older one was, the more timid they became. As Chu Li's martial arts became stronger, he became more careful. He would not do anything that the heavenly star insight and his intuition told him not to do. He suppressed his curiosity and the urge to challenge himself. The elder squinted his eyes as he watched Chu Li walk out. He shook his head and sighed. Fine. If that's the case, it's up to you. Let's go. As he finished speaking, he strode in front of them. Just as he was about to step out of the palace gate, the old man's expression suddenly changed. He clutched his chest and slowly fell down. Chu Li's expression changed as well. He quickly went forward to support him and asked, Senior? The old man's face was sallow. He waved his hand, indicating for him to calm down. What happened? Chu Li asked in a low voice. The old man sighed and helped him to sit on the floor tiles of the palace. He took a deep breath and said, It's an old problem. I'll be fine after a while. Chu Li asked, Are you all right? I won't die. The elder's body was trembling slightly. He was indescribably weak, like a candle that would be extinguished by a gust of wind. Chu Li said helplessly, It seems that Senior's injury is not light. Is it an old injury? The old man nodded and said, It's the root of the illness that I had when I was young. I haven't been able to cure it. I've lived for more than 100 years by relying on this longevity treasure. Now I can die without regret. Chu Li smiled. Senior, it's better not to say such inauspicious things. If I really die... The old man frowned and said, The only thing I can't let go of is this place. Is there any treasure that you can't let go of, Senior? Chu Li asked. The guardian of the longevity treasure can only be passed down to one person. The old man sighed. If I suddenly pass away, I'm afraid that the guardian of the longevity treasure will die. That would be a great sin. Chu Li said, Senior, you should find an heir as soon as possible. Sigh. I don't know if I can make it in time. The old man shook his head. If I die, there will be no one to protect it. Anyone can take away the longevity treasure. The formation on the treasure won't be activated anymore. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. The formation on the treasure was activated by you, Senior? The old man nodded. If it wasn't for me, no one would be able to trace the treasure away. Chu Li sighed and said, It seems that Senior is really important. Is it urgent now? It's fine. The old man shook his head. Chu Li said, Senior, you should take care of yourself. I'll come back again. He got up and walked out after he finished speaking. The old man furrowed his eyebrows and stared at his back. He watched as he strode to the palace door, opened the door and stepped out. Then, he disappeared without a trace. As soon as Chu Li left, 2 people slowly appeared beside the old man. Song Jifan and a young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes stared at the palace door. They turned to look at the old man and then looked at each other. Senior Song, are you relieved now? Song Jifan asked. Song Sizu frowned and stared at the palace door. He looked at the dark blue jade pendant and said slowly, Something's wrong. Senior Song, if it was someone else, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to do what Bailey Na did, right? Song Jifan laughed and said, although Bailey Na is sly and unusually alert, you don't have to worry about his temperament. He once risked his life to save me and Elder Fong. He clearly wanted to see the heavenly astral jade tablet. Why did he let it go? Song Sizu asked in a low voice. There's a formation blocking it. He can't see it, Song Jifan said. Song Sizu shook his head. Elder Lu was in such a situation and he didn't have any evil thoughts? That shouldn't be the case. Bailey Na is a person with principles, Song Jifan said. He knows what he can take and what he can't. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lived until now. Bailey Na was able to live well and live alone. He had his own set of principles, and this set of principles protected him from being harmed. Looking at the way he did things now, it was obvious. All right, Song Sizu nodded slowly. Then he passes. Song Jifan smiled. Then bring him into the real longevity treasure. The longevity treasure is controlled by the bishop. We have no right to interfere, Song Sizu said. Song Jifan smiled. However, he cursed in his heart. He had no right to interfere and yet he caused such a scene? No one was more nosy than him. However, although he cursed in his heart, he did not show it on his face. After all, this Song Sizu was the elder ancestor's subordinate. Even if he didn't give face to the monk, he still had to give face to the Buddha. He couldn't make things too ugly. He had to endure everything and wait for them to return to the realm beyond Avalon. It wouldn't take long. Does the bishop want to participate in the martial arts competition? Song Sizu walked out. Of course. Song Jifan nodded. If we can enter such a grand event, the longevity sect won't have to worry about a lack of talents. Song Sizu said. Then the bishop must be careful. Many of the celestials who came this time have extremely secret inheritances. Many of these secret inheritances have been lost in this world. However, if they are not lost, they must not be underestimated. I will be careful. Song Jifan nodded slowly. He had already cultivated a divine technique. He could even fight against Chu Li, let alone others. After Chu Li stepped out of the palace door, his body suddenly descended and he appeared in midair. After falling for more than 20 meters like a stone, his body suddenly slowed down and he slowly landed on the top of a giant tree. Then, he stepped on the top of the tree and left the forest. After leaving the forest, his sense of danger only dissipated. He let out a sigh of relief. He did not regret not using the Heaven Astral Jade Medallion. He concluded that it was a trap. Chapter 1906. In the beginning, he could not see through the old man's mind, so he did not know what was going on. He was dubious, but the old man's expression made him suspicious. The more he wanted him to search for the heavenly Astra Jade stamp, the more alert he became. However, the old man suddenly pretended to be sick, as if he was injured. In fact, the old man was really injured, and his injuries were acting up perfectly. There was no way to tell that he was faking it. Unfortunately, this gave Chu Li a good opportunity. The omniscient mirror immediately saw through the old man's thoughts. The old man did not know much as he was only following orders. Moreover, he was indeed the guardian of the longevity treasure. The only difference was that the palace was not the hidden treasure of longevity. Instead, it was another hidden treasure. However, the treasures in the treasure were real. This showed how rich the longevity church was. They had countless treasures that made people drool. From time to time, Chu Li would have the urge to snatch the floating mountain or directly kill Song Jifan. Then, he could disguise himself as Song Jifan and take over the floating mountain. That way, he would not have to worry about anything anymore. He would not have to work so hard to activate the blood dragon tree. He had to produce 3 rounds of fruits in one go. It had taken a lot of his energy. Thinking about it, he could not help but feel a lingering fear. He did not want to experience it again. With these treasures, his subordinate's strength would skyrocket. They would be strong even without the blood dragon fruit. Unfortunately, Song Wuji's existence made him hesitate. He didn't dare to kill Song Jifan, nor could he take the floating mountain for himself. He believed that many people had the same idea and wanted to take over the floating mountain, but they were powerless. Meanwhile, that heavenly star jade stamp was fake, and it looked exactly the same as the heavenly star jade stamp. However, there was a powerful formation within it, and once one entered it, they would be seriously injured. That was a power that could harm heavenly deities. The omniscient mirror saw all of this in a flash. He felt lucky that he restrained his greed and did not recklessly search for the blue jade. Otherwise, he would have died in the treasure. He landed outside the forest and turned to look at the forest. He shook his head and returned to his courtyard. Lu Jun was waiting in his courtyard. When he saw him, he put down his teacup and smiled. "Did you enter the longevity treasure?" Chu Li nodded and shook his head. "What do you mean?" Lu Jun was confused. Chu Li sighed. "I did enter the longevity treasure, but unfortunately, I didn't find what I was looking for. There's no heavenly astral jade stamp at all. What a waste." Lu Jun asked in surprise, "What are you looking for? You can't find it?" "Heaven's star jade badge," Chu Li said. "Unfortunately, it's fake." "Impossible." Lu Jun shook his head decisively. "There are no fake treasures in the longevity vault." Chu Li said, "I'm not mistaken. That's definitely not the cosmic jade metal." "Do you know what the heavenly star jade stamp looks like?" Lu Jun scoffed. "As if I've really seen it before." Chu Li hesitated for a moment before he slowly nodded. "I've seen it before." "Where have I seen it before?" "In the hands of a disciple from the stargazing pavilion." "Who?" "Li Xinghe." "You're really amazing to have met such a genius." Lu Jun exclaimed in surprise. Li Xinghe is a very mysterious fellow. It's said that he's a genius among the disciples of the stargazing pavilion of this generation, surpassing even his father. Chu Li said, "I met him by chance and saw the Heaven Star Jade stamp before. That's why I'm looking for the second half of the Heavens Star Jade stamp." "Could it be that you've cultivated the first half of the Heavens Star Jade stamp?" Lu Jun asked. Chu Li smiled bitterly. "I've cultivated a mystical technique from the stargazing pavilion called the Heavenly Heart technique. However, I'm not lucky enough to cultivate the Heaven's Star Jade stamp. The Heavenly Heart technique is already very powerful." Lu Jun revealed an envious expression. "It's said that after cultivating it, you'll be able to predict the future. It's truly a mystical technique. Moreover, it's very difficult to cultivate and requires an extremely high aptitude." "Can you really cultivate it?" Chu Li nodded. "As expected of Elder Bai." Lu Jun gave him a thumbs up. Chu Li shook his head and broke into laughter. The two of them chatted and laughed. Chu Li was using Lu Jun to dispel his doubts. Song Sizu's gaze was still lingering there. He had yet to dispel his suspicions. As long as he did not dispel his suspicions, it would be difficult for him to enter the true longevity vault. This was something that could not be helped no matter how strong his martial arts was. He could only use this method to dispel their suspicions. After chatting with Lu Jun for a while, Chu Li arrived at the Heaven's Punishment Hall. Elder Fong was reading a dossier in the hall. When she saw him enter, she waved for him to come forward. Chu Li closed fist saluted and walked forward. He weakly called out to the hall leader. "What's going on?" Elder Fong frowned and looked at him. "Didn't you see the Heaven's Star Jade stamp?" Chu Li shook his head. "It's fake." Elder Fong's reaction was exactly the same as Lu Jun's. She flatly denied it. "Impossible. There's definitely no fake treasures in the longevity vault." Chu Li sighed. "I've seen the real one. This is definitely a fake. Don't panic. I'll ask the bishop." Elder Fong's face darkened. Her subordinate took out the Heavenly Heart technique in exchange for the Heaven's Star Jade stamp. In the end, the Heaven's Star Jade stamp was fake. Moreover, the Heavenly Heart technique had already been given out. No matter how she looked at it, it was a farce. She was the hall leader. How could she not help her subordinate? How could she tolerate such a thing? Even if she did not pursue the matter of the Heaven's Star Jade stamp, she still had to provide other forms of compensation. Chu Li closed fist saluted weakly. Elder Fong floated away. Chu Li stood in the basilica motionless like a statue. He seemed to be deep in thought. He felt that if Elder Fong were to take action, Song Jifan would have some scruples. He would not test him because of Song Sizu's words. After a quarter of an hour, Elder Fong floated back and said slowly, "You didn't go to the longevity vault. It was another vault. It's a test for you. Anyone who enters the longevity vault has to pass this test." Chu Li frowned. "It doesn't matter if it's the longevity vault. I just want the Heaven's Star Jade stamp. It's the same if I get it from another vault. I don't have to enter the longevity vault. But why is it fake? Only if it's fake can I see your character." Elder Fong scoffed. D***mn the rules. It should be real this time. It's real. Chu Li was dubious. Elder Fong said, "Don't worry. It's definitely real this time." Chu Li sighed. "Palace leader, this is too. Even if it's a test, it doesn't have to be like this, right?" Elder Fong saw his dissatisfaction and said, "Everyone has experienced this person. Rules are rules. You're not the only one who has been fooled." "All right then." Chu Li tried his best to cheer up. "When can I enter the longevity vault?" "Today." Elder Fong said, "Go now. It's the place you went to before." Chu Li closed fist saluted without saying anything more. He turned around and went to the forest. He jumped to the treetop and jumped again. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. It was another palace. Compared to the previous palace, this palace seemed to be half the size. It was simple and unadorned. There was no luxury at all. It was not eye-catching either. The old man from before stood in front of the palace. He looked at Chu Li and nodded. "Come in." Chu Li closed fist saluted. "How's your injury?" "It's no big deal." The old man scoffed. Chapter 1907. Chu Li fist saluted and followed him inside. There were only a dozen items in the basilica: a long sword, a long blade, a dagger, a pagoda, and a blue stone. Chu Li's gaze focused on the blue stone. He recognized it as a star stone at first glance. He did not expect to see a star stone here, and it was different from the ones he had seen before. It was more dazzling, more blue, and more attractive to him. He could not wait to get his hands on it. All of his instincts and the cosmic insight skill were reminding him that he must get his hands on this star stone after he took it. Chu Li pointed at the star stone. "Senior, what is this?" "A star stone." The old man's expression was indifferent, as if he did not treat it as a treasure. "A useless stone that fell from the sky." "It's useless, but because it's rare, I used it to make up the numbers." Chu Li said, "It's really a beautiful stone." "What's the point of it being beautiful?" The old man said, "Even a person like your temple leader who loves beauty didn't choose it. It's just a decoration after all." Chu Li wanted to take the star stone right away. "Senior, can I take it?" "No." The old man said, "No matter how useless it is, it's still a treasure in the longevity treasure. Your contribution is only enough for you to see the cosmic jade badge. You won't be able to take anything else. It's better for you to behave." Sigh. Chu Li shook his head and sighed reluctantly. The old man scoffed. "You're not a woman, why are you taking this thing?" Chu Li said helplessly, "It's good to look at." The old man shut his mouth and said no more. He brought him to a shelf and pointed at a dull jade pendant. "This is the real Heavenly Star Jade pendant. If you still don't believe me, then I can't do anything about it." Chuli raised his eyebrows and picked up the palm-sized white jade pendant. Do you believe it's real? The old man scoffed. Chuli nodded. It's real. You can sense it? The old man frowned and stared at him. Chuli smiled. I've cultivated the heavenly heart technique. My senses are quite accurate. All right, I'll give you an hour. You can stay here and study it. The old man shook his head and said, If you can't figure anything out in 2 hours, then you can't blame others. In any case, this is a legendary item. No one knows if it is the Heavenly Star Jade Medallion or not. Senior, you don't know? Chuli smiled. The old man said, Those who can come to the longevity treasury are all unfathomable. I can't see through them with my meager abilities. Chuli closed fist saluted and said no more. It was hard to say if he could understand it in 2 hours. The old man turned around and walked out, quickly leaving the hall. Chuli's gaze quickly swept across the many treasures. He did not have to destroy the Chongshan denomination. If he pretended to be Song Jifan and took a few treasures, no one would know. Even if Song Jifan found out, he could only suffer in silence. He could not complain to Song Wuji, could he? His thoughts surged and he felt that it was feasible. However, he needed to fully understand how to take away the treasures. Even Song Jifan could not simply take it and leave. He needed to go through a process and he might even need to use a secret code. He needed to find a chance to teach Song Jifan a lesson. Now that Song Jifan had cultivated some kind of divine technique, he had to be careful. Chuli still needed to complete the solidification of the Chakram Pagoda as soon as possible. He had already realized that every time he solidified a layer of the Chakram Pagoda, his skill would increase by a level. He immediately got rid of the distracting thoughts and focused on improving the Heavenly Star Insight technique first. Thus, he began to explore the white jade pendant with his spirit. There was an invisible layer of obstruction. He squinted his eyes and pierced the pendant with the God-punishing thunder sword. Bang! It was like a sudden clap of thunder. His ears were ringing and his vision blurred. It was as if the world was shaking violently. He took a deep breath and activated the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture to get rid of all kinds of abnormalities. It turned out to be his own illusion. This was caused by the white jade pendant. The God-punishing thunder sword could not break the invisible power in the white jade pendant. He did not believe it and released the God-punishing thunder sword again. Boom! Amidst the explosion, he felt as if the thunder had fallen on him. His whole body felt numb and he almost collapsed to the ground. After the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture was activated, his hallucinations disappeared. He withdrew his spirit and looked at the white jade pendant. He frowned and pondered. Why was the defensive power in the white jade pendant so strong? It seemed that this was not the doing of the longevity treasure or the elder from before. It must have been the doing of the white jade pendant itself. It was no wonder that the elder could not comprehend it. It was indeed a natural moat that could not be broken. Chuli thought about it and shot out 3 God-punishing thunder swords at the same time. Boom! He lost all his senses at once. He could not hear or see anything. He could not even feel his own existence. It was as if his spirit had disappeared as well. There was only blankness and calmness in his heart. He immediately activated the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture and slowly regained his senses. He felt that a long time had passed, but it was only a moment. He felt a lingering fear in his heart. If it was not for the Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture, he would have become an idiot and died. This white jade pendant was too vicious. He could not help but think of Song Wuji's name. He knew that this was derived from the Heavenly Star Insight skill and the Omniscient Mirror. The person who set up this restriction was Song Wuji. Chuli became more fearful. This Song Wuji was really powerful. If it was not for his soul that was much stronger than ordinary people and the many secret skills he had cultivated, he would have fallen for it and become an idiot. Song Wuji's method was too vicious to kill without leaving a trace. He could not be bothered to think about Song Wuji anymore. His spirit went into the heavenly star jade medallion again. Pictures and human figures flashed clearly in his mind and were imprinted in his mind. It's time. The elder opened the door and said. Chu Li trembled and slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were still blank as if he did not know where he was. It was as if he had just woken up from a long dream. The elder looked at him and could not help but be surprised. It seemed that this fellow really understood something. The heavenly star jade medallion was not an ordinary treasure. Someone must have placed a restriction on it and it could not be understood at all. It seemed that this fellow was really capable. It's time. You should leave, Bailey Na. The elder approached him and extended his hand. Chu Li nodded slowly and returned the white jade pendant reluctantly. The elder said, It's good that you understood something. Don't expect too much. Chu Li sighed. It's a pity that the time was too short. I didn't get too much. Who let this in? Honorable Master Song Wuji, the elder said. Chu Li nodded and thought that it was indeed Song Wuji's method. The omniscient mirror in his mind became clearer and brighter. His heavenly star insight skill had improved a lot. With just a thought, he could complete many deductions and his speed was 10 times faster than before. He was like a fish in water when he deduced martial arts and deduced worldly affairs more accurately and quickly. Chu Li felt that he had gained a lot. This trip to the longevity treasure was not in vain. He yearned for the treasures in the longevity treasure more and more. It seemed that he had to deal with Song Jifan as soon as possible and obtain these treasures. Other than the star stones in the treasure, there was also a pagoda. It was similar to the pagoda in the fake longevity treasure but smaller. It should be a set. Chapter 1908. This feeling was a reminder from the newly upgraded Heavenly Star Insight skill. These two pagodas did not seem to have anything to do with the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture, much less the Reincarnation Pagoda. After all, the Buddhist cultivation techniques were as vast as the ocean and endless. Every single technique had its own wonders. Even though they were both Buddhist techniques, they were worlds apart. Just like the Tempest Temple, the Reincarnation Temple, and the Titanium Temple, their cultivation paths were completely different. Even if they obtained the treasures of the other, it would be useless. For example, the Titanium Saraira was a supreme treasure to the monks of the Titanium Temple, but it was not very useful to the Tempest Temple and the Reincarnation Temple. It could only calm the mind. Chu Li did not find any connection between the two pagodas and the Reincarnation Temple, but the Heavenly Star Insight skill deduced that they were, which was very important to him. Chu Li's desire for the longevity treasure grew. He had to obtain the Star Stone and the pagodas. When he returned to his courtyard, he was still thinking about the contents of the Heavenly Astral Jade Stamp. He was also deducing and comprehending the Heavenly Star Insight skill. As he comprehended the second half of the Heavenly Astral Jade Stamp, the Heavenly Star Insight skill improved greatly. Did you enter the longevity treasure? Lu Jun's voice suddenly rang. Chu Li looked up. He was completely focused on the Heavenly Astral Jade Stamp and did not notice Lu Jun's arrival. Lu Jun was brewing tea in the gazebo. Steam rose and the fragrance of tea filled the air. He was about to pour tea into the teacup. You didn't go in? Lu Jun stopped and the steaming teapot stopped in midair. Chu Li smiled. I went in and gained a lot. Lu Jun heaved a sigh of relief and scoffed. That's all. Why don't I look for the bishop myself? The teapot was placed down and filled 2 cups quickly before it was placed back on the small stove. Lu Jun pushed a teacup forward and picked up his own teacup. He blew on it lightly and sniffed the aroma, revealing an intoxicated expression. Good tea. Chu Li sat opposite him and smiled. Where did you get the good tea? I got it from the bishop. Lu Jun smiled. The bishop has been busy cultivating recently and had no time to enjoy the new tea on the mountain. I helped him drink some. Chu smiled and shook his head. Has the bishop mastered the divine technique? He wanted to know what divine technique Song Jifan was cultivating. Unfortunately, he was very tight-lipped and could not find out. I succeeded. Lu Jun excitedly put down his teacup and chuckled. This time, it's an amazing technique from the Grandmaster's boundary. We'll definitely be able to teach Chu a lesson and wipe away our previous shame. Chu said, every time you say that, you end up losing to Chu. I know how powerful Chu is. As he spoke, he revealed a look of resentment. Lu Jun hurriedly waved his hand. It's not the same. It's definitely not the same this time. Then what kind of divine technique does the bishop cultivate? Chu asked curiously, have I heard of it? Old Bai, you've definitely never heard of it. Lu Jun laughed. This divine art is called Dragon Blade. Chu could not help but laugh. How arrogant! Lu Jun said. If you dare to call me that, then you naturally have confidence. The dragon Salyer is going to kill the golden dragon. Chu shook his head and could not help but laugh. It seems like the Grandmasters can't kill the golden dragon. The realm beyond heaven isn't just the one above us. Lu Jun said, there's a sky above the sky. It should be a mystical technique of a higher level. That makes sense. Chu said, has Brother Lu seen the bishop use it before? Of course. Lu Jun said excitedly, it's really powerful. It's even stronger than the Heavenly King palm. Compared to the heaven-killing scripture? Chu said. Stronger. Lu Jun said. Chu smiled as he picked up his teacup and took a sip. Lu Jun scoffed. You don't believe me? Chu shook his head. You haven't seen the bishop use the dragon Salyer. Otherwise, you would definitely be so shocked that you wouldn't be able to close your mouth. Lu Jun exclaimed, it's so powerful that it's beyond imagination. Chu will definitely die this time. If we can really kill Chu, the bishop's merit will be immeasurable, Chu said hatefully. He had already sat in Lu Jun's mind and saw the situation at that time. The so-called dragon Salyer was not a real blade technique, but a palm technique. However, the palm technique was called dragon Salyer. It would give people a huge illusion and mislead, affecting their judgment. It was very likely that they would die because of this misdirection. The opponent thought that he did not use his sword and was not a threat, but in the end, his palm was the powerful dragon Salyer. From Lu Jun's mind, he saw Song Jifan's palm coming down lightly and a long sword was split into two. The palm energy was no different from a treasure sword that could cut iron like mud. When Chu saw this scene, his heart trembled slightly. He could do this because he had to use the heaven-killing scripture and had the heaven-killing sword in his hand. However, Song Jifan was bare-handed and did not use any other treasure sword. Such palm energy was not to be underestimated. Lu Jun drank his tea and smiled proudly. Don't worry, Chu won't live for more than a few days. Chu nodded hard. That's for the best. A day later, he asked for his leave from the temple leader Elder Fong. He wanted to continue traveling down the mountain. He wanted to try his luck and use the unique Heavenly King to make a name for himself. It would also be easier for him to gather information outside. Elder Fong agreed readily. In the evening, he appeared in his own courtyard in the High Duke's public house. He wanted to cultivate quietly and understand the Heavenly Astra Jade stamp that he had obtained. The second half of the Heavenly Astra Jade stamp was extremely profound and he could not understand it in a short time. If he could completely understand it, he would definitely be able to upgrade the Heavenly Astra insight to a higher level. By then, he might be able to understand the mystery of the patterns on the heart of Azura. Xueling came over in a white dress. Master, you're finally back. What's the matter? Chu sat in the small gazebo in the courtyard and glanced at the entire island. He instinctively activated the life and death scripture to mature the 3 blood dragon trees from a distance so that they could grow faster and bear fruit faster so that he could cultivate another batch of grandmasters. Xueling said, "The Qiu dynasty is going to war with the Li dynasty." Chu Li frowned and scoffed. "Isn't the martial arts world war about to start? Why is this happening again?" "The Qiu dynasty is the one who initiated the war. They said they want to take revenge for what happened last time," Xueling said. "Didn't the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty fight evenly last time? The Qiu dynasty is not convinced, so they want to defeat the Li dynasty this time." "What about the Li dynasty?" Chu Li asked. "The Li dynasty hasn't made any moves. They're not saying that they're going to fight or not." Xueling shook her head. "Everyone is curious about what's going on." Chu Li nodded slowly. He guessed that Sun Mingyue did not want to start a war. Sun Fashing might not want to start a war either, but now that things had come to this, the Li dynasty had no choice but to fight. If the Qiu dynasty started to attack, the Li dynasty could only deal with it as it had no choice but to assassinate the Qiu dynasty's new emperor, Chen Chongmao. "Master, are you going to intervene?" Xueling asked. Chu Li thought about it. "I'll go and take a look first." Xueling said, "Be careful, Master. They know that you'll intervene, but they still dare to do this. They must have something up their sleeve." Chu Li hummed in acknowledgement and suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared outside the reincarnation temple. As soon as the enlightened god field was released, Monk Ji Ning appeared in the void and slowly landed in front of him. His monk robe fluttered as he pressed his palms together and said, "Almsgiver Chu, how have you been?" Chu Li asked, "Monk Jining, is the Qiu dynasty really going to fight the Li dynasty?" Monk Jining pressed his palms together and looked helpless. "Namo Amitba." Chu Li frowned and his face darkened. Chapter 1909. Monk Jining had a helpless look on his face. Chu Li frowned. "It seems like you're being forced. If that's the case, it must be the Fu dynasty's emperor?" "Namo Amitba." Monk Jining looked at Chu Li in shock. Chu Li said, "The Fu dynasty's strength has weakened, so they naturally need to weaken others. Otherwise, they won't be able to maintain their dominance. They must have taken action too. It seems like the Fu dynasty is behind this." "Namo Amitba." Monk Jining pressed his palms together. Chu Li sighed. "Monk, are you willing to be ordered around by the Fu dynasty?" "Namo Amitba." Monk Jining sighed before he pressed his palms together again. Chu Li chuckled. "If that's the case, pass the message to Chen Chongmao. He can do it half-heartedly and drag it out for as long as possible. I'll handle the Fu dynasty. I really don't want to attack the Jing dynasty." "Namo Amitba." Monk Jining nodded. Chu Li pressed his palms together and disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in the Holy Church of Light's Divine Light Basilica. Sun Mingyue was quietly reading a dossier. She was dressed in a snow-white robe and time seemed to have frozen. She sensed Chu Li's presence and looked up. Chu Li sighed. "It seems like the Fu dynasty is making a move." Sun Mingyue took off the white veil on her face and revealed her stunning face. She nodded. "The Fu dynasty won't be satisfied. What are you going to do? Do you want to continue killing the Fu dynasty's emperor?" "I can't." Chu Li shook his head. He was now more sensitive and knew that if he killed the current Fu dynasty's emperor, he would truly anger the Grandmaster. The Grandmaster's bottom line was getting lower and lower. Initially, only 1 rank 1 celestial would be sent down, but now 3 rank 1 celestials would be sent down. If he really angered the Grandmasters, 10 rank 1 celestials would be sent down. Even if he could escape, Shao Qi and the others would not be able to. He was initially fearless of the Grandmaster, but now he was afraid. As his martial arts became stronger and his understanding of the Grandmaster deepened, he felt that it was not something he could fight alone. He could not fight them head-on, or he would not have a good ending. He had to fight with his wits and courage. Sun Mingyue said, "It's not good to kill any more or we'll really anger the Grandmaster." She had carefully speculated about the Grandmaster's actions and felt that Chu Li should be more careful. He could not blindly kill them, or else the Grandmasters would make up their minds to destroy him. The Grandmaster's attitude towards Chu Li was extremely contradictory, and it kept changing. However, as Chu Li's martial arts became stronger, they became more lenient towards him. Initially, they wanted to get rid of him because he was a different species, but now they wanted to make use of him. After all, this kind of expert was something that could only be encountered by chance, not sought out. In particular, his expertise in killing Asuras was the reason why they valued him so highly. Chu Li asked, "Do you have any ideas?" "I'm going to see Chen Chongmao with the Emperor soon." Sun Mingyue frowned and said, "The Qiu dynasty has initiated the war, so the Li dynasty has no other choice. If they don't fight, more civilians and soldiers will die in vain." The Qiu dynasty had come prepared. If the Li dynasty did not take the initiative to fight, they would definitely suffer a great loss. This was not a battle that they could choose not to fight because they did not want to. The Li dynasty had no choice. Chu Li nodded slowly. "Looks like we can only convince Chen Chongmao." Chen Chongmao had no choice, Sun Mingyue said. "The key lies with the Fu dynasty." Chu Li said, "I guess Tang Hui is waiting for me in ambush." "I'll go with you," Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li smiled. "I'll go alone." Sun Mingyue glared at him. "I've thought it through now. There's no need to pay attention to his crazy words. It's fine as long as I have a clear conscience." "If that's the case, let's go," Chu Li said. Sun Mingyue reached out and grabbed his hand. The two of them suddenly disappeared from the Divine Light Basilica and appeared outside the Fu dynasty's imperial palace in the next moment. Chu Li used the omniscient mirror to observe the entire Fu dynasty's imperial palace and saw Tang Hui. Tang Hui was only in his 20s. He was thin, slender, handsome, and had a feminine temperament. He sat behind the dragon table with a sullen face and an imposing manner. Chu Li frowned. There were no celestials or stronger masters in the imperial palace. There was only Tang Hui, an enlightened master. He sat upright and stared coldly at the chancellors below him. Sun Mingyue turned to look at him. Chu Li said, "It's a little strange. Tang Hui didn't take any precautions. There's really no trap." "Strange." Sun Mingyue frowned. Chu Li released his enlightened god field, and so did Sun Mingyue. Their enlightened god fields did not repel each other. Instead, they were faintly compatible. This was the effect of the supreme titanium scripture. Tang Hui looked up and waved his hand to dismiss the chancellors. He slowly left the basilica and disappeared in a flash when he arrived at an empty space outside the basilica. The next moment, he appeared in front of Chu Li and Sun Mingyue. Chu Li looked at him calmly. Tang Hui narrowed his eyes and suddenly smiled. "Chu Li, right?" Chu Li said slowly, "Your Majesty should know why I'm here, right?" Tang Hui said, "You want to stop the war between the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty." Chu Li nodded. Tang Hui shook his head. "You can't stop it." Chu Li asked, "Your Majesty, have you made up your mind?" "Yes." Tang Hui said, "Unless you kill me, the war between the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty is unavoidable." "Your Majesty, how can you stop the war between the two countries?" Chu Li asked. Tang Hui said, "There's no way." Chu Li smiled. "In that case, even if I kill your Majesty, I can't stop the war between the two countries?" "Yes." Tang Hui said in a low voice, "Death is death, it's no big deal, but no one can change the Fu dynasty's decision, including you, Chu Li. What's the use of your martial arts?" Chu Li said, "Your Majesty, do you know that most of the people who died in my hands couldn't enter the Grandmaster's boundary and directly disappeared?" Tang Hui narrowed his eyes slightly. "So what?" Chu Li sighed. "Your Majesty is not afraid of death, But what about your brothers and sisters? Women? Children? I think your Majesty's child is only 3 or 4 years old, right? He used the omniscient mirror to observe the entire imperial house and saw the women and children in the imperial house. Chu Li, you're the world's #1 master, Tang Hui said coldly. Chu Li said, Your Majesty, you pity your women and so do others. Once the war starts, how many innocent women and children will die? I don't have to care about this, but I can't bear to do it. Don't do to others what you don't want them to do to you. Your Majesty, think about it. Chu Li, if you really dare to attack my family, someone will attack yours. Tang Hui said coldly. An eye for an eye, Chu Li said calmly, as if I'm not attacking my family now? Unless your Majesty commits suicide now, I won't interfere. If I make a move, it won't be so easy for your Majesty to die. The calmer he was, the more afraid Tang Hui was. Sun Mingyue did not say a word and secretly laughed. She knew that even if Tang Hui did not surrender, Chu Li would not attack his family. But she knew that Tang Hui did not, and he did not dare to bet on whether Chu Li would abide by his principles. Your Majesty, think about it. Goodbye. Chu Li fist saluted and suddenly disappeared with Sun Mingyue. Tang Hui clenched his fists and stared in the direction where Chu Li disappeared. He wanted to punch Chu Li to death to wash away the shame of the Tang family. As a descendant of the Tang family, he swore to kill Chu Li. Chapter 1910. Both of them appeared in the Divine Light Basilica. Sun Mingyue tilted her head and asked Chu Li, What are you going to do if he doesn't yield? I can only assassinate the general in the military. I don't want to do that unless it's absolutely necessary. Chu Li shook his head. These generals were only following orders. It would be unfair to kill them without killing the emperor who gave the order. However, since it involved countless innocent civilians and soldiers, they could only be wronged. As long as a batch was killed, it would be useless even if the emperor gave the order. It would be difficult for the two countries to start a war again. All of this was treating the symptoms but not the root cause. He could only rely on his martial arts to suppress them for a while. It would not last long. As long as he went into isolated cultivation for a while, they would become restless and fight. It's too exhausting to assassinate in the military. It's better not to. Sun Mingyue shook her head. Chu Li smiled. It's fine. His cosmic insight technique was getting stronger and his deduction of military formations was getting faster. As long as he found a way to break the formation, it would not be difficult. Sun Mingyue shook her head and stopped persuading him. Chu Li first went to Fairy's capital. The great Ji dynasty was calm and peaceful. The three women cooperated with Suan and managed the court affairs in an orderly manner. The officials did not feel that there was anything strange and only felt that after Suan, this Arhat became the emperor, he was indeed a heaven-bestowed genius. His intelligence surpassed others, and he was truly not someone that could be compared to others. Chu Li was anxious. He did not wait for another batch of blood dragon fruits to ripen. He returned to the floating mountain and shouted, Song Jifan, Chu Li is here. The sky was dark and the sun was setting. The surroundings were unusually quiet. A night breeze blew and it was slightly cold. Chu Li's voice did not dissipate. It spread far into the sky and echoed throughout the floating mountain. Everyone on and above the floating mountain heard this voice. They were furious and looked at the bishop's basilica to see how he would respond. Song Jifan's voice was heard. Chu Li, good timing. I was just about to look for you. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared and reappeared in front of Chu Li in the next moment. He stood in the void with a cold smile on his face. Chu Li, you're really bold. You know that I'm cultivating in isolation, but you still dare to come here to die. Chu Li smiled. I heard you've mastered a mystical technique. I'm here to learn from you. Okay, let's give it a try. Song Jifan smiled faintly. Take my palm first. As soon as he finished speaking, he lightly struck out with his palm. Chu Li quickly retreated, barely avoiding this strange palm energy. The palm force landed on the ground, but it was silent, and the ground was not damaged at all. Chu Li's heart skipped a beat as he squinted his eyes. Through the omniscient mirror, Wisdom Observation saw that Song Jifan's palm energy had formed into a thin ray of light. It was thinner and thinner than his sky regicide sword, so thin that it was barely visible. Just as it was about to hit the ground, it suddenly drilled back into Song Jifan's palm. This palm strike could be retracted and released at will. As long as it didn't hit its target, it wouldn't waste its power. It was truly miraculous. What palm energy is this? Chu Li asked. You don't need to know. Song Jifan said faintly. Chu Li, you came here purely to find fault with me. You want to destroy my confidence and completely destroy me, right? Not bad. Chu Li nodded. Song Jifan snorted. I won't collapse so easily. No matter how many times I lose, I'm still confident that I can defeat you and pull you down from the throne of number 1 in the world. Chu Li said, Where do you get your confidence from? Naturally from my founder. Song Jifan scoffed. Your goddess attraction mountain is powerful, but it's not as good as my founder. Chu Li nodded. As he spoke, Song Jifan's hands were not idle. He struck with palm after palm, and his palm energy was like a treasure knife. However, Chu Li kept dodging and did not take him head-on. He wanted to exhaust his inner energy. Such a powerful palm energy would definitely consume a lot of inner energy. Even if he could retract and release it at will, it would still be consumed. Moreover, retracting and releasing it would consume even more of his mind. Chu Li believed that Song Jifan would not be able to hold on for long. Chu Li, you're too timid. Song Jifan sneered. You keep dodging and don't dare to take it head-on. Where did your skills go? You want to exhaust my inner energy? Dream on. Chu Li sighed. Then let's try. As soon as he finished speaking, the Supreme Vajra palm collided with the Dragon Blade. TSS. The Dragon Blade's palm energy slashed across his right palm. Chu Li only felt pain in his right palm. A shallow white mark appeared between his thumb and forefinger. The blade energy did not dissipate and continued to drill in. It wanted to drill through the skin on Chu Li's hand. The pain became more intense. The Supreme Vajra indestructible body and the Black Tortoise shield were activated at the same time. At the same time, they pressed on the Sky Killer sword. The three forces worked at the same time. The white mark slowly dissipated and the blade energy was forced out. Chu Li secretly exclaimed. If he did not have the Black Tortoise shield, he would have suffered a loss. The Vajra indestructible body alone would not have been able to block this palm energy. Even with the Sky Killer scripture, he might not have been able to block it. Good. Chu Li shouted in a deep voice. Song Jifan's face darkened. He frowned and stared at Chu Li's hand. He felt that it was inconceivable. Such a palm energy could really cut through iron like mud. No protective divine technique could block it. Even the Sky Killer scripture could not. Yet Chu Li blocked it. It was simply too strange. Chu Li said, Good palm energy. Again. As he spoke, he rushed forward and slowly unsheathed the Sky Killer sword. Humph! Song Jifan's face changed slightly. He knew the power of the Sky Killer sword and the Sky Killer scripture. He moved his palms together and used the Dragon Blade. Bang! A muffled sound came from behind Chu Li. Chu Li took a step forward as if he did not know there was a palm energy coming from behind him. He continued to attack Song Jifan as if he wanted to kill him. Bang 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 bang! A series of palms hit Chu Li's back. Chu Li frowned and turned his head. He said coldly, Sneak attack from behind. Despicable act. I'll send you to heaven. In a flash, he appeared behind Song Sizu and swung his sword. Song Sizu's face changed slightly. He wanted to dodge but found that he could not. Bang! Song Sizu was suddenly sent flying when the long sword fell on his head. It was Song Jifan who pushed Song Sizu away from the Sky Killer Sword's sword energy. As soon as he escaped, Song Sizu broke out in a cold sweat. He did not expect the power of the Sky Killer Sword to be so terrifying. Song Jifan said, "Retreat immediately when you see him attack." Song Sizu nodded with a sullen face. No matter what, Song Jifan saved his life. Otherwise, he would have died under Chu Li's sword. Chu Li chuckled. The Church of Longevity and Song Jifan. I was wrong about you. Song Jifan felt his face heat up. It was indeed a great shame that he could not defeat Chu Li with his own abilities. However, since Song Sizu had made a move, he would definitely not let Song Jifan fight Chu Li alone. The two of them must work together. However, if the two of them could kill Chu Li together, it was worth it for him to feel uncomfortable. Song Sizu scoffed. Chu Li, you brought yourself to us. Don't blame us for being merciless. Die. His body suddenly lit up and the seal was undone. Two people appeared from the void behind him. It was Guo Zhongjing and Qing Hao. Both of their bodies shone brightly. The light from the three of them merged together. It was as if a sun had fallen on them. The light was so bright that people could not look at it directly. Chu Li was shocked. Their momentum kept rising. When the three of them worked together, they were so powerful that they could threaten him. He must not be careless. Attack! Song Sizu shouted. Song Jifan was the first to attack. He swung his palm down. This palm was more powerful than before. It was as if he had taken a huge machete that was taller than his body and slashed horizontally. However, it was formless and powerless. The sharpness was restrained and only released at the most critical moment. Chapter 1911. In the omniscient mirror, Chu Li could see it clearly but pretended not to know. When the dragon blade was close, Song Jifan was ecstatic and suddenly disappeared. 10 meters behind Chu Li, an ancient tree that was as thick as a person's arms were wrapped around it was cut in half. Song Jifan could freely retract and release the dragon blade, but in his ecstasy just now, he might only have the chance to slash out blood shame. Thus, he poured all of his shame into it. Not only did he not hold back, he even used all of his strength. The blade cut through the air, and there was no time to retract it. But after cutting the ancient tree in half, the dragon blade had already been retracted. His face was pale. The dragon blade's palm power consumed a lot of spirit and inner energy. It was often invincible and unstoppable, but it couldn't be used against someone as cunning as Chu Li. Chu Li's dodge also made Song Jifan put away his thoughts of luck. He knew that the palm power could no longer be hidden from him, so he might as well face it head-on. Song Sizu and the other two turned into a dazzling brilliance, the white light faintly showing a blue halo, and instantly hit Chu Li. Bang! After a muffled sound, Chu Li flew out, and the three stopped in the air. They looked down at Chu Li, who crashed into the forest, their faces solemn. The three could feel that Chu Li was not injured at all. He just took advantage of the situation to move away from their violent attack. It seemed that he wanted to escape, and the thunder attack formed by the three did not paralyze him. Chu Li, are you going to escape? Song Jifan shouted. He planned to let Song Sizu and the other two entangle Chu Li while he looked for an opportunity to move. Once Chu Li showed signs of fatigue, the dragon blade would slash at him and kill him in one hit. Song Sizu and the other two were the top celestial beings. The power of the three's joint attack was several times more powerful. It was not something that Chu Li could fight against. If he wanted to deal with him, he would have to pass through the three of them first, and he was not worried that the three of them would not help him. They were here to protect him under the orders of the founder. Chu Li scoffed. With the protection of the celestial beings, the longevity sect is indeed extraordinary. It's good that you know. Song Jifan snorted. Today you came to die, you can't blame others. Bang bang bang. Chu Li and Song Sizu and the other two collided 3 times in a row, the blue light flashing non-stop. The 4 of them flew in the air and chased after Chu Li. Chu Li kept retreating to reduce the force of the attack. The palm energy formed by Song Sizu and the other two's combined attack was imbued with the power of thunder and lightning. Furthermore, the thunder and lightning were getting stronger and stronger, as if thunder was falling from the sky. This was the trump card of the 3 of them. Even in the Grandmaster's boundary, they were invincible and rarely had opponents. That was why Song Wuji sent them down to protect Song Jifan. Unfortunately, they encountered Chu Li. Every time the lightning struck, the supreme Vajra in the void of his mind would open his eyes. The thunder pearl in his hands flowed, and the power of lightning in his body suddenly drilled into the thunder pearl. The thunder pearl turned a little blue. Although it was extremely weak, Chu Li could see it clearly with the omniscient mirror. Even though it was barely noticeable, the power of the attack was still shocking. Bang 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 bang. Song Sizu and the other 2 didn't believe it and continued to attack fiercely. The blue radiance released by the 3 of them became more and more intense, almost no different from lightning. Chu Li kept retreating and was sent flying again and again. Song Jifan was beaming with joy and his whole body was tense, looking for an opportunity. However, Song Sizu and the other 2's hearts kept sinking. Chu Li's retreat was not because he was injured, but because he was diverting the force. Moreover, the power of lightning from the 3 did not play a role at all. This was the most powerful force in the world. How could Chu Li resist it? Chu Li suddenly looked up and spat out a mouthful of blood, flying diagonally. Song Jifan was overjoyed. The next moment, he suddenly appeared behind Chu Li and swiped his palm at his neck. Chu Li stretched his hand behind him and met it with a light palm. Bang! The 2 palms collided. Song Jifan felt as if he was struck by lightning and his hair stood up. Chu Li followed up with another palm. A golden light fell from the sky and condensed into a palm print, hitting Song Jifan's chest. Bang! Song Jifan flew straight out. However, he was not injured. With the protection of the treasured clothing, he was not afraid of lightning. It also dissipated most of Chu Li's palm force. In addition, he had the divine protection technique, which also dissipated more than half of it. If Chu Li wanted to directly injure him with one palm, he would need an excellent opportunity. Stop! Song Sizu and the other 2 were anxious and stood in front of Song Jifan. The 3 god-punishing thunder swords in Chu Li's mind shot out. Bang! Song Sizu and the other 2 trembled. Their shoulders exploded and powder flew everywhere. Chu Li frowned. These 3 guys were actually wearing the Guardian God pendant. He struck out with another palm. A golden light fell from the sky and condensed into a palm print, directly landing on Song Jifan's back. The golden light fell from the sky. Song Sizu and the other 2 could not stop it at all. Song Jifan was between them and the golden light. Chi! Song Jifan struck out with his palm. The palm force of the dragon Salyer cut through the supreme diamond palm. The thunder force on his body was dispersed, and he regained his mobility. He was extremely furious. Chu Li had grasped the weakness of the Thunder Imperial Garment and had plotted against him. Therefore, he no longer cared about his previous plans and did not wait for an opportunity to strike. He immediately surrounded Song Sizu and the other 2. Chu Li was surrounded by the 3 of them, but he kept retreating. Huh! Song Jifan suddenly turned his head to look. He realized that he and the others had already fallen into a formation. The surrounding spiritual energy suddenly disappeared, as if they had returned to the post-liminary realm. Song Sizu and the other 2 also felt the same way. Their expressions changed slightly and then they sneered. Chu Li, what formation is this? Song Jifan floated back and pulled away. Chu Li smiled calmly. Killing Origin Formation. Song Jifan snorted, as expected of the Killing Origin Formation. We can't borrow spiritual energy, can you? Of course. Chu Li said. Haha, ridiculous. Song Jifan sneered and shook his head. Do you think I don't know about the Killing Origin Formation? Since you've fallen into it yourself, let's see who can exhaust their inner energy first. As he finished speaking, he struck out with his palm. He was still using the dragon salure, as if he did not care about the Killing Origin Formation and was not afraid of exhausting his inner energy. Chu Li frowned and glanced at his golden crown. This golden crown was similar to his black tortoise shield. It could store inner energy. It was really troublesome. However, it was not good for Song Sizu and the other two. They did not have such a treasure, so they floated back. TSK, 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 TSK. Song Jifan relied on his golden crown and did not worry about the lack of inner energy. He desperately used the dragon salure and wanted to improve the dragon salure in actual combat. The best way to improve the dragon salure was in actual combat. Song Jifan was sure that even if Chu Li did not have a treasure like his, he would definitely not be able to hold on first. Chu Li suddenly disappeared under the dragon salure's wild attack and appeared behind Qing Hao in the next moment. Qing Hao fiercely struck out with his palm. After colliding with Chu Li's supreme Vajra palm, he flew out. Song Sizu and Guo Zhangjing saw that the situation was not good and quickly chased after Qing Hao, wanting to continue working together. Chu Li dodged Song Jifan's dragon salure and hit Guo Zhangjing with the supreme Vajra palm. Guo Zhangjing flew out again. You guys go first, Song Jifan shouted. He flashed behind Chu Li like a ghost, and the dragon salure slashed out as fast as lightning. The enlightened god field was pushed to the limit, vaguely isolating the space, not allowing Chu Li to move. Chu Li turned around to face it. Bang! The two palms collided, and the two of them each took a step back. Song Sizu and the other two merged together and shot out lightning again. Bang! Chu Li flew out and crashed into Song Jifan again. Song Jifan sneered and waved his palm to meet it. Bang! Song Jifan flew out and his hair stood on end again. Chu Li took a step behind him and slapped his shoulder with his palm. It was still carrying lightning, and the thunder bead had already been activated. Bang! Song Jifan finally spat out blood. Chu Li reached out and grabbed Song Jifan. With a fierce pull, the two of them instantly disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1912. The sword flashed past Song Jifan's right arm. His right arm fell to the ground, but there was no blood on his shoulder. It was sealed. His left arm fell to the ground too, but there was no blood. Chu Li sheathed his sword and looked at Song Jifan. Song Jifan's face was pale. He sneered at Chu Li. Chu Li, you dare to kill me? Chu Li shook his head. I don't dare. You wouldn't dare either. Song Jifan sneered. If you push me too far, don't blame me for killing myself. Even if I can't enter the Outland, the elder ancestor will sense it. You will die. Chu Li nodded. That's right. What do you want? Song Jifan scoffed. Chu Li said, I want to find some confidential information. Speak. Song Jifan said. He secretly activated the art of eternal agility and looked at the two arms on the ground. If he could get them, it would be easy to get them back. If not, he would have to put in more effort. But now that Song Sizu and the other two were here, he did not have to do many things himself. Chu Li said, What is Song Wuji's position in the Outland? Master of the Thunder Pool. Song Jifan said proudly, It's easy to kill you. If I didn't want to break the rules, I would have killed you with a bolt of lightning. Chu Li said, When you became an enlightened master, why was there still lightning? Humph, it's not like there's only one thunder pool. Song Jifan scoffed. He was able to block heaven's thunder, but he was unable to block Chu Li's thunder force from his palm energy. This was because the Thunder Imperial Treasured Robe was not invincible and had its weaknesses. Chu Li's thunder force was transmitted through his palm energy and avoided the Thunder Imperial Treasured Robe. Chu Li nodded slowly. I see. Song Jifan said, don't think that you can block the lightning. You're just not strong enough. If I really want to kill you, you'll definitely die. You'll turn into ashes and you won't be able to reincarnate. Chu Li said, how did Song Wuji become the master of the Thunder Pool? Because he's strong. Song Jifan said proudly, the elder ancestor was stronger than you. Chu Li laughed. That's true. I don't have the ability to kill so many enlightened masters at once. The heavenly deities of the past were much stronger than the current heavenly deities. Song Wuji was able to kill so many heavenly deities in one breath, which meant that his abilities far surpassed the current him. Moreover, the current Song Wuji was much stronger than him. Song Jifan stood proudly and looked up at the sky. Chu Li asked, I heard that the Longevity Church has many hidden treasures? Song Jifan's expression changed slightly as he said in a deep voice, what do you want? Chu Li smiled. You're the bishop. It's not too much to exchange a treasure for your life, is it? Impossible. Song Jifan said coldly. If you want to kill me, then kill me. You want to exchange for a hidden treasure? Dream on. If worst comes to worst, I'll just kill myself. Chu Li said, then you should think about it carefully. Now that you've ascended to the Grandmaster's boundary, what's your status like? Song Jifan frowned and stared at him. Chu Li smiled and said, actually, to the Longevity Church, a secret treasure is nothing, right? Chu Li, I didn't expect you to be so greedy and despicable. Song Jifan said coldly. Chu Li was simply a robber. It was a fool's dream to rob the Longevity Church's hidden treasure. Chu Li said, how about this, I'll take a step back. I don't want a hidden treasure, just a few treasures. How about that? Impossible, Song Jifan said. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. If that's the case, I can only cripple you first and then trap you in a formation. No one can find you. Song Wuji can't sense that you're dead, so he won't come down to settle the score with me. You won't die either. I can die if I want to, Song Jifan said coldly. Chu Li smiled. I have the spirit blessing pill. I can save you if you're not dead yet. Then let's see how many spirit blessing pills you have. Song Jifan sneered. Chu Li suddenly stepped forward and slapped Song Jifan's shoulder. The palm energy contained in the thunder pearl surged out continuously. Song Jifan's hair stood up and his body trembled as if he was electrocuted. Chu Li pressed on his shoulder and did not move. The thunder pearl extracted a sliver of energy and poured it into his body, numbing him. Chu Li then slapped him a few more times with his left palm. Suddenly, the inner energy in Song Jifan's body gradually dispersed as if he was crippled of his martial arts. However, Chu Li knew that this was only temporary. The ageless longevity technique was almost impossible to cripple. Bam 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 bam. Chu Li slapped him a few more times and destroyed all the protective artifacts on his body. Chu Li let go of his palms and let Song Jifan sit on the ground leaning against the stone wall. His pale face was extremely gloomy as he stared at Chu Li. Chief Song, are you not going to reconsider? Chu Li asked with a smile. His smile was exceptionally eerie in Song Jifan's eyes. Song Jifan took a deep breath and shook his head slowly. Dream on. Chu Li took off his golden crown and put it on his head. He smiled. This golden crown is really not bad. It's the symbol of a chief, right? Song Jifan squinted his eyes and said, it's just an ordinary crown. It looks good on you. You can take it. Chu Li felt the power from the golden crown and smiled. With it, you won't be afraid of losing your inner energy. It seems like it's really a treasure. I can only accept it. Song Jifan was heartbroken. This was the chief's crown. If he lost it, he would not be able to explain himself. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. You're quite stubborn. I'm impressed. Song Jifan looked at him askance. Chu Li said, the secret is actually nothing, right? Song Jifan sneered. Chu Li said, actually, it's just a trick. Do we need some code to enter the secret? Song Jifan sneered and said nothing. Chu Li shook his head and said, it's just a trick to deceive the followers. It's to make them think that it's an honor to enter the secret and that they're willing to die for the Church of Longevity. Song Jifan did not have anything to protect his soul. Although his soul was strong, he could not defend against the omniscient mirror. Chu Li instantly saw the method to enter the secret from his mind. He was overjoyed, but he still maintained his calmness. He shook his head and sighed. Did Song Wuji invent all these tricks? Song Jifan said coldly, I advise you not to think about the secret. Chu Li smiled. Chief Song, I actually know a strange technique called the puppet technique. Song Jifan frowned and looked at him. Chu Li smiled. Through this technique, I can make Chief Song do something. What is it? Song Jifan frowned. Chu Li said, why did I shatter your soul protection items? Because without them, you can't resist my puppet technique. What are you trying to do? Song Jifan said coldly. Chu Li smiled. Through this technique, I can make Chief Song enter the secret and give me the treasure. Impossible. Song Jifan sneered. Chu Li said, then let's wait and see. As he spoke, he picked up the two arms from the ground and passed them to Song Jifan. Chief, can you reattach the arms? Song Jifan stared at him coldly. Chu Li smiled. I believe you have the ability. Last time, it was very easy for you to regrow the broken limbs. Song Jifan concentrated the ageless longevity technique that was hidden in his mind. Suddenly, the scattered inner energy began to gather and returned to its original position in the blink of an eye. Then, it began to flow between the two arms. The vigor of the two arms began to connect. Chapter 1913. Song Jifan stared at Chu Li cautiously. He wanted to kill Chu Li, but he was powerless. Chu Li smiled. Don't worry, I won't hurt you this time. What are you trying to do? Song Jifan scoffed. Chu Li replied, I'm using your identity to get some treasures. The Changshan Church has too many treasures. You should give some to everyone. Dream on. Song Jifan sneered. Back then, the Changshan Church was besieged by many enlightened masters because of their many treasures. Now, even enlightened masters dare not provoke the Changshan Church because of ancestor Song Wuji's deterrence. Before this, the enlightened masters did not know because the floating mountain had always been hidden. Now that the floating mountain had appeared, the enlightened masters knew how powerful Song Wuji was and did not dare to offend him. Only Chu Li was fearless. Everyone was thinking about the Changshan Church's treasures, but no one could get them. The Changshan Church was still safe and sound. Chu Li shook his head. You're under my puppet technique. You have no choice but to obey. I'd rather die. Song Jifan said coldly. Chu Li said, it's not that easy to die. As soon as he finished, he frowned and looked at the void behind him. Then, he grabbed Song Jifan and disappeared. The next moment, the two fell into another formation. Chu Li sighed. I've underestimated you. You've summoned them without even realizing it. It's good that you know. Song Jifan said, they'll keep chasing after you. You can't escape. Chu Li said, this formation can isolate senses. They won't be able to come. Song Jifan laughed in disdain. Chu Li frowned and looked at the void. Then, he grabbed Song Jifan and disappeared. The two of them appeared at the peak of a tall mountain. The wind was blowing fiercely. Song Jifan's hair danced in the wind. He looked at Chu Li, who was wearing a golden crown. Let me go as soon as possible. Chu Li sighed. Looks like I can only use the puppet technique here. As soon as he finished speaking, A blue light came from the void and shot at him. He lightly struck with his palm. The blue light landed on his palm and drilled into it like a snake. After the tyrannical power of thunder and lightning drilled into his palm, it directly drilled into his brain and was attracted by the thunder bead, strengthening it a little. Chuli was secretly thankful that he was lucky. Among the three of them, the strongest power was the power of thunder. If it was someone else, they might not be able to withstand such an incomparably tyrannical power. However, Chuli had the thunder pearl with him and could tame thunder and lightning, so he was least afraid of thunder and lightning. Chuli calmly looked at the three people who had appeared in front of Suan. He shook his head and said, "You still refuse to give up your evil intentions. You're courting death." "Release sect master," Song Sizu said in a low voice. Chuli pressed on the heaven-killing sword and slowly pulled it out. Instantly, a monstrous aura surged forward, as if a mountain was pressing down on them. The three of them felt as if they were unable to breathe. Chuli said in a low voice, "I didn't want to kill you at first, but you guys keep asking for it. Don't blame me then." The three of them immediately shone brightly, as if a sun had fallen in the middle of them. The radiance was blinding. Chuli grabbed Song Jifan and disappeared again. The next moment the two of them appeared in a valley. Chuli's waist glinted coldly. Chi! Song Jifan's left index finger fell to the ground. Chuli then grabbed Song Jifan and disappeared in the valley again. After a while, Song Sizu and the other two appeared in the valley. Their faces were extremely gloomy. They were played by Chuli, which made them so angry that they wanted to burn Chuli's bones and scatter his ashes so that he would never be able to reincarnate. The three of them moved quickly and soon saw the half of the index finger in the bushes. There was no blood on the index finger, only a thin transparent silk thread. Their faces became gloomier, and their eyes burned like they were spitting fire. Qing Hao looked up at Song Sizu. "Senior brother, what do we do?" Guozhangjing also looked over. "We've lost the trail this time. We can't catch up." Song Sizu's face darkened as he slowly nodded. "Sorry for the trouble." The thin thread tied to Song Jifan's index finger contained a strange force. They could sense him based on this force. Even if they were thousands of miles away, they could still sense him and instantly rush over to rescue him. But now that the thin thread had fallen here, they had completely lost track of Song Jifan. Logically, this thin thread was almost invisible and traceless. It should have been impossible to sense it, but Chuli had actually discovered it. It was truly amazing. "We can only rely on that treasure," Qing Hao slowly said. Song Sizu sighed. "I really don't want to use it unless it's a critical moment." "It's a critical moment now," Qing Hao said. Qing Hao said, "Senior brother Song, if something really happens to Sect Master, you should know what our ending will be." "All right." Song Sizu nodded helplessly and took out a small box from his inner pocket. It was a small box that was only the size of an index finger. After opening the small box, there was a round black card the size of a fingernail inside. It was pitch black without a trace of light. It was like a huge black dot that absorbed the light around it. At first glance, it was impossible to look away. It was as if one's gaze was being sucked into it, and even one's mind was being sucked in. Song Sizu, Qing Hao, and Guo Zhangjing stared at the black card with solemn expressions. "Come," Song Sizu said in a low voice. The other two nodded. The three of them bit their index fingers and 3 drops of blood fell on the black card. In an instant, the black card disappeared into the black card. After absorbing their blood, the black card slowly floated up and hovered between the 3 men's eyebrows. It was motionless as if it was being held by an invisible hand. Then, the 3 men turned their fingers and formed hand seals one after another. The hand seals pointed at the black card, and waves of energy fell on the black card. Hum! The black card suddenly shone brightly, and turned into a blurry image that vaguely looked like Song Jifan. Song Sizu and the other two men's eyes suddenly lit up. Song Sizu reached out and grabbed the black card, putting it into the wooden box. He closed the wooden box and put it into his inner pocket. He said in a low voice, "Let's go." Chuli was talking to Song Jifan. After cutting off his index finger, Song Jifan's aura could no longer spread out and could not be detected by Song Sizu and the other two men. He suddenly frowned as he felt the aura of Song Sizu and the other two men again. He scoffed. "Looks like we can only kill them." Song Jifan sneered. "You don't have the guts." Chuli said, "All right, then we can only trap them." He suddenly disappeared, and the next moment, he appeared in a formation. He then took out a few jade pendants the size of a thumb and threw them into the sky. Suddenly, a few cold lights shot into the sky and a few rays of light fell from the sky. As soon as Song Sizu and the other two appeared, the rays of light fell exactly. This was thanks to the combination of the omniscient mirror, the heavenly star insight, and the nature restoration manifestation. Their calculations were extremely precise. As the rays of light fell on them, Song Sizu and the other two men had goosebumps all over their bodies. They wanted to move, but it was too late and they immediately froze. Chuli swung the Sky Killer sword. Wherever the light of the sword passed, the three men's 6 arms were all cut off and their acupuncture points were sealed. Chuli took the opportunity to search everything in their arms. The small box was also obtained by him. Chuli smiled and shook his head. "You guys just had to come to me. I can't not accept it. Chuli, you're so shameless." Song Jifan gritted his teeth as he watched Chuli search Song Sizu and the other two men's bodies. He looked very much like a thief and did not have the demeanor of the world's number one at all. This made him feel extremely shameless. "I look down on you." Chuli smiled. "I can't help it. Who asked me to be poor?" You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.